The defending world champion San Francisco Giants invade Busch Stadium to take on Lance Berkman and the first-place Cardinals next on ESPN.
Here we go again, give you more yes, we need this. Yes, believe this.
They rode their pitching staff to a World Series title last season, and if the Giants had a return to the Fall Classic, it'll be the strength of their arms and clutch hitting that gets them there. Tonight, they'll look for some more magic out of their bats and turn to the resilient Ryan Vogelsong and his 1.77 ERA as he takes the mound against a dangerous Cards lineup. St. Louis's offense is loaded with weapons, but the performance of one slugger stands above the rest. They call him the Big Puma. He's having a huge bounce-back season. Lance Berkman leads the NL in hitting, on-base percentage, and slugging percentage. Giants-Cardinals, next! Major League Baseball on a Tuesday night, one of the best places to see and hang out and talk some baseball. St. Louis's Busch Stadium, and we got the world champs to boot. The Redbird fans are wearing red, and why not? Their team is in first place in the NL Central, 32-23, 9 above 500 here in this last evening of May, 2.5 in front of the Brewers. As for the San Francisco Giants, they've been passed by a hot club here this past few days in the West. Arizona leads the Giants by a half a game out in the NL West. Hello once again, everybody. I'm Chris Berman, and as you can tell by the top of my forehead, late May, St. Louis, summer has arrived. It's about 90 degrees, or at least it was this afternoon. We don't do much Tuesday baseball anymore. We harken back to the older days of ESPN when we had Ruby Tuesday, or dare I say the Hotel California games. So it's good to be back as a spot starter called up from Double-A, the Richmond Flying Squirrels. I hope to go 7 2/3. But some things never change. With me, my partner, Rick What is that? Rick Sutcliffe, what is that?
Well, it was an accident. It's hot.
You just dropped the razor or what?
It had to go,
I don't think I recognize you.
I know now why I grew it to begin with, though. It's coming back.
Well, some things are different this year because I've waited all my life to say it. The defending world champions, San Francisco Giants. Can they do it again? Well, they certainly have the pitching. But if they do it, it's without their best day-to-day player, and that's the youngster, the Rookie of the Year a year ago, Buster Posey. Successful surgery, albeit season-ending surgery on his ankle, also a broken bone in his fibula behind the plate. Well, their pitching, the four that you got to know, America got to know during the World Series, they're still there. And a new name, Ryan Vogelsong, is on the hill tonight. That's as good a story as any, son.
You know what, Boomer? If I could have any rotation in baseball right now, it would be the San Francisco Giants. I know the core four of the Philadelphia Phillies is outstanding, but collectively they're 25 years older than that here of San Francisco. You stop and think about Lincecum and Kane. They impersonated Drysdale and Koufax back in the 60s. Sanchez has already thrown a no-hitter. Bumgarner, at 21 years of age, has a World Series win. But what got them going? When all of a sudden Ryan Vogelsong joined that rotation at the end of April, all of a sudden they became the best team in baseball. The Giants gave Vogelsong the ball for one start when Zito got hurt. You know what, Boomer? He don't plan on giving it back.
No, it's a wonderful story, which we'll elaborate some tonight. The Cardinals in first. The story you would expect is Albert Pujols. For him, an off 2 months. Of course, his first 10 years in the majors, as good as just about anybody has ever had. Matt Holliday, a late scratch with a quad tweak. He's been a big batter. But the guy who was once the enemy with the Houston Astros, Lance Berkman, is leading in just about every category offensively in the National League as a Cardinal.
Well, for 22 years, Stan Musial was the man here in St. Louis. The past decade, even Stan would admit, it has been Albert Pujols. But when you talk to the Cardinal players now, the first 2 months of the season, 2011, the man here in St. Louis has been Lance Berkman. Not only is he leading the Cardinals offense, but he's leading the National League in average on-base percentage and slugging percentage. Boomer, a couple of weeks ago, they were talking about him being the comeback player of the year in the National League. If he continues this, there's going to be some MVP talk.
You won that, didn't you?
No.
Not MVP, comeback player.
Oh, yeah, a couple times.
That you won for a different reason. Well, certainly rough news for the Giants, who was only last Wednesday, the collision at the plate with Buster Posey. But our Buster Olney, is not out for the year. He's not hurt. And Buster, Lance Berkman, a Cardinal, how'd this happen?
It was his idea. Chris, the first time that the Cardinals had conversations with Lance Berkman, he said, yeah, I know, I haven't played the outfield since 2004 on a regular basis, but I can do it. And what he said to them was, playing the outfield actually put less stress on his legs than when he played first base. He did a lot of sprints in the offseason to prepare for this. As Tony La Russa said, he's been perfect in the clubhouse, he's been perfect in the lineup, and actually tonight, he's not playing the outfield, he's at first base with Albert Pujols playing third base, Chris.
All right, Buster, thank you very much. And one of the other pieces of the puzzle that hasn't fit yet, the ace, Chris Carpenter, 1-5. Does he get off the schneid tonight? Ruby Tuesday baseball in a moment. ESPN Major League Baseball brought to you by Ford. Drive one. And by Gillette Fusion Pro Glide. Turn shaving into gliding and skeptics into believers. Pay attention to that, Sut. The world champion San Francisco Giants against the first place St. Louis Cardinals. Two of the most decorated franchises. And Bruce Bochy decorated as the skipper of the champs. And Boch has had to scrap a lot. Now we'll have to do it more in the lineup without Buster Posey, his best everyday player, as we said. The Giants' lineup tonight includes Andres Torres to lead off with a grand slam yesterday in the Giants' 7-3 win. Pat Burrell is back in the cleanup spot. You see Whiteside is the catcher these days. Freddie Sanchez, really the only guy of the Giants even approaching 300.
Well, he right now is their best everyday player. You look at that 294 average. Coming into play tonight, he's hit over 300 in the month of May. Had hit in 8 straight games until an 0-for-5 yesterday.
And on the mound, the ace for years here at the St. Louis Cardinals, except not this year thus far. 1-5, which is an eye-opener. Chris Carpenter. What's to it, son?
Well, it's all been about his fastball command. He's been giving up a lot of hits, a lot of home runs, but to me, Boomer, that's been the result. The reason has been that his secondary pitches have not been effective, and because of that, people are just sitting on that fastball.
So Andres Torres, he sent a grand slam yesterday. The Willie Mack Award winner last year, which is voted on by the team, his teammates. He had an appendectomy in September, came back 12 days later and was such a huge part in the Giants' surge to win a pennant on the last day of the year. And he goes the other way, but playing left field out there, making the play is Alan Craig. That was to be Matt Holliday originally, but we told you he was a late scratch. The Cardinals defense, Craig, young Rasmus, and young Jay are your outfield. It's a young team, but a lot of them around the second time around. Terrio and Schumacher was just back a couple of days ago from the injured list. Pujols and Berkman, an impressive corner duo. And Yadier Molina's fine a defensive catcher as you can find behind the plate. Miguel Tejada they come, Tejada they fall up against Chris Carpenter here in the top of the first inning on summer-like day in St. Louis. Tejada hitting in the 2-hole now, a long way to right, and it is over the head of John Jay. Tejada will dig. He's been one of the many names of the Giants you might expect to hit well, have not. Maybe he's starting to come out. Couple hits yesterday, long double here.
Boomer, no question that ball was hit hard once again. It's a fastball from Carpenter. The Giants are able to square it up, but I was really surprised at how shallow John Jay was playing Miguel Tejada there. Tejada has not been hitting as of well, but he's still as strong as he ever was, and he proves it to Tony La Russa right there.
Tejada telling me that hitting in the 2-hole, he was hitting 8 a lot. Now, of course, he put himself there by not being able to hit, but he feels more comfortable at 2, and thus far, he certainly isn't lying. Freddie Sanchez, one-time batting champion from the Pittsburgh Pirates a few years ago, most recently collected his 1,000th career hit. In there against Chris Carpenter, and Carpenter starts him off with a strike. Long, lanky Chris Carpenter. 6'6", 230 pounds from Manchester, New Hampshire. Hit well by Sanchez, but to straightaway left field, and that's Alan Craig. makes his second put out, nothing doing with Tejada, 2 out.
Boomer, yesterday, Bruce Bochy was saying before the game, the reason for putting Tejada in that second spot is he said, we need to get him going. And how you do that is you put him in a spot in the lineup to where the guy behind him is your best player. He's going to get pitches to hit. Yesterday, he responded with a couple of hits in his first 2 at-bats. It looks like he's starting to come around now, and boy, do they need it.
One of the heroes last year, and that's a long list for the Giants, a midseason pickup by Brian Sabian. Pat the Bat Burrell looks in there to Carpenter and looks at strike 1. Burrell has been scuffling, has actually sat more than he started lately, but of his, was he 6 for 24 against Carpenter, 4 of them home runs. Carpenter misses, it's 1-1.
Talking with Pat before the game about that, he said, you know what, you've got to stay on that fastball. He said his velocity's still good. We know that he doesn't have a lot of victories, but he's throwing the ball as well as he ever had. Talking about his approach to Carpenter tonight.
Carpenter gets Burrell to swing and miss. 1-2.
Look at that, 95 miles an hour on that sinking fastball down and in. Health has been a question. All kinds of arm problems for Carpenter in the past. It is not the question right now.
And Burrow will step out, call for time. Giants trying to get something going. They don't score many runs. They got 7 yesterday, which is sometimes a series word for them. Dwayne Kuiper, the excellent broadcaster of the Giants, along with Mike Kruko that did the TV games, called it early last year. Giants baseball, torture. They're at it again, although they're defending champs. 2-2, Carpenter misses low and away.
Torture, misfits, the dirty dozen. They had all kinds of nicknames a year ago. Well, people are calling them champs now.
The glow is still on, but they know it's going to be work. And you don't score much. It's they've relied on a lot of late wins.
Well, this would be Buster Posey at home plate right now.
Yes. Pitch on the way to Burrell. He takes that one. Now the count is full. With Tejada, the runner at second base, who had a 1-out double to over the head of Jay in right field. Chris Berman, Rick Sutcliffe, a rare Tuesday night game here on ESPN. Glad you could join us. 2 franchises rich in history, the Giants and Cardinals. 35 World Series appearances between them, lifetime. Pretty good. And I might add, they each won one in the last 5 years. Burrell, Carpenter know each other well. Burrell's days as a Philly. Pitches away. Burrell draws a walk, so 2 on, 2 out for the number 5 hitter, who will be youngster Brandon Belt. Here's what we talked about, Sut. Offensively challenged the Giants are. Not the kind of rankings that you would want, especially if you're one of their pitchers.
You know, and part of that, Boomer, has to do with the ballpark that they play in at home. They're in San Francisco. It's as big as any park in all of baseball. But for the most part, there's just a lot of guys up to this point. It's past the point of being a slow start.
This is young Brandon Belt, who made the opening day roster as that pitch was inside. Hit a home run, a 3-run homer, his second game. Had hit his first game, but then the playing time, the hitting fell off. He went down to Fresno, lit it up. But with a series of injuries, starting with Posey's, he was recalled last week. Swings through that one. It's 1-1. You can see some of what he did last season at all 3 levels, combining for 352 and 23 homers. And a minor league all-star.
Well, and everywhere we looked, he was voted the #1 prospect in the minor league system for these Giants.
Breaking ball in there for a strike, says home plate umpire Mike DeMuro. Count is 1-2. DeMuro at home plate, Jim Reynolds at first, Tim Welke at second, Andy Fletcher is at third.
And Boomer, the one thing, the biggest difference between the big leagues and the minor leagues, you say, well, how do you know if a guy dominates in AAA, why can't he do it here? Well, when they find a hole at the big league level, they can continue to wear you out. The minor league level, it's not the same.
Belt holds off that one. Had a good eye. Count is 2-2. 2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 out, 2 on. Top of the first, Giants Cardinals. No score.
I'll tell you one thing, too, that I've noticed here with Chris Carpenter right now. Not real confident in his pitch selection. His pace right now of this ball game is not the norm for him.
Swung on and missed by Belt, so Carpenter does wriggle free. Giants strand 2. The Cardinals coming up when we return to St. Louis. Welcome back to St. Louis, everybody, for special Tuesday night baseball. Giants no score in the top of the first against Chris Carpenter. And there is Tony La Russa, who in about a week and a half will manage his 5,000th game. I mean, that's preposterous. Only one man, Connie Mack, ever managed more. Here's Tony's lineup tonight. The late scratch Holiday, Berkman hitting cleanup, and Albert Pujols, who's done it all in 10 years. For Albert, 2 months off for him. What do you see, Sut?
Well, you know what? To me, he was off balance the first couple of months, Boomer. Maybe trying to do too much. We know what happened in spring training with the contract, but the Cardinals have won their last 5 consecutive series. They could get even hotter if he could continue to do what he did yesterday, which was hit his 9th home run.
And a wonderful story. Ryan Vogelsong, an original draft pick by the Giants, left them to go many places after 0-1. 10 years later, he's back.
Yeah, and he pieced it together nicely over there in Japan for those 3 years. You just saw the numbers. 1 run allowed in his last 4 starts, and that cost him a loss. He got beat 1-0 by Florida, but you'll take an outing like that every time.
So Vogelsong, the 5th starter, replacing the injured Barry Zito, and he's not giving that spot up. Starts with 2 balls to Ryan Theriot, the 4th Cardinal starting shortstop in the last 5 years. He's done a good job hitting almost 300. And currently riding a 13-game hitting streak, which Posey was riding when he got hurt on Wednesday night. And here's in there for a strike, and Vogelsong's lost 1-0. Gave up 1 run. It was the day game after the stunning injury in the 12th inning to Posey, and the Giants were not taking anything away from Sanchez, who pitched it for Florida, but they were just stunned. They got no runs, and Vogelsong got the loss, his only loss of the year. Now 2-2 to Theriot.
Well, and Bruce Bochy told us last night at dinner that he had to address that with the team because, you know what, Buster's not coming back. And Buster would want us to go out there and be aggressive and not hope to win, expect to win as we did a year ago. And from that point on, they have gotten better.
Vogelsong looks in at Eli Whiteside, the new everyday catcher for the Giants. Foul back is Theriot. And here's the injury. You've all seen it. Or if you haven't, you want to take another look. Here it is in the 12th inning of a 6-6 game, and Schuerholz has a quick and good arm. And Cousins came in, and Posey didn't have the ball, and you see the bang, and the foot planted and never moved. And there's the break right there. And there's the ligaments they were more worried about than the bone, which to the, us novices in the medical business sounds wrong, but foul ball again. But they were very, Dave Greshner, the lead trainer, they're very upbeat about the surgery. They will, in about 8 or 10, the surgery happened on Sunday, about 8 or 10 weeks, they'll take a couple of screws out. The bone will heal on its own. They said it was a clean break, which is good. But he's gone for the year is the bottom line. Young Buster Posey, heart and soul already of the Giants. 2-2 Vogelsong. Theriot reaches out to right, fighting the sun and making the play. It's Cody Ross. And here's what they miss in addition to a guy so beyond his years.
Well, he was a rookie of the year, but from day one, he didn't act or play like a rookie. You see the 300 average that he had during the World Series. And Boomer, he was just starting to get hot offensively for the Giants when he went down. This was a guy that they planned on being a cornerstone for their organization for years to come. As bad as that injury was and all that was involved with that surgery, you have to wonder, Boomer, is he going to be able to come back and catch on a full-time basis? I don't know.
Well, that would be the plan. That's what he says right away. I mean, look, it's just happened. They've just had the surgery. The injury is still less than a week old. We certainly would hope so. This is one of the bright young stars, not just for the Giants, for all of baseball. I mean, how are the Twins doing without Joe Mauer? How's that going?
Yeah, look at the bottom of the American League Central. You'll find them there. That's the one thing about a catcher, Boomer. I talked with Carl Ravitch on Baseball Tonight earlier tonight about that. You win a baseball game in one of three ways: pitching, defense, or timely hitting. And there's only one position, and there was only one guy in the National League that gave a team more than anybody else, and that's the catching position. Your fingers are going to call 130 pitches a night. The rapport with the staff has to be there. The defense, you coordinate everybody defensively, and also he could swing the bat.
2-1 pitch up high to young John Jay. So Jay has a hitter's count. And here's Tim Lincecum, who will start here tomorrow on ESPN's Wednesday Night Baseball. Lincecum, although his record belies it, he's went over 500. He's throwing better as well as he has. He's just fun to watch. It's an event every time he pitches. Fouling away is Jay. Jay, 26 years of age, from Miami and the University of Miami, where he was a 3-time All-America. So following in the footsteps of a Pat Burrell or an Aubrey Huff, who played, a decade before there with the Hurricanes. Second-round pick of the Cardinals in 06.
Well, you look at his media guide, there's a lot of 300s in his minor league career.
This is a grounder to second. Freddie Sanchez has had a hot glove lately over to Belt. And there's 2 outs for Ryan Vogelsong. Outfield tonight for the Giants: Burrell, Torres, and Ross. And then up the middle, Brandon Crawford, new call-up. And a grand slam. He's the shortstop with Freddie Sanchez. Tejada is at third, along with young Brandon Belt. So 2 ports of the inner infield are Brandon's. And Eli Whiteside now steps into an everyday role for the Giants. And here's Albert Winnie the Pujols in his 11th season. And what he's done, of course, the first 10 is as good as anybody. More homers than Hank Aaron in his first 10 years. Higher batting average than Tony Gwynn. More RBIs than Stan Musial. I mean, we could go on and on and on. More runs than Ricky Henderson. But more questions for the first time after 2 months for him. He had a homer yesterday. Maybe we should have known Sut. He grounded into 3 double plays on opening day, and it was, I don't know, just a bad omen, perhaps, for the start. You really worried about him all year? I'm not. Are you?
You know what? He's a different guy right now, Boomer.
What do you mean? Like I said, I'm not worried about him. Base hit. Thank you. Stop it already, will you? No, what do you mean? Well, maybe you're right.
Well,
he was
it just seems like
daydreaming.
his mind.
Wow.
He's just not the same guy that he's always been right now. There's a lot on his plate with that contract.
Wow. Base hit, but gone. It's been that sort of 2 months for Pujols. Giants and Cardinals, top of the second, no score. Pujols has the hitting down finally, but the base running now has left him. What was that?
Well, he's always been aggressive, and when he saw Torres go down, I guess he thought the ball got by him. There he tried to turn it on. Then he realizes he's in trouble. He slips a little bit, but just a terrific job on the part of Brandon Belt to clear himself, to get out of the line of fire with that base runner, to make the throw so much easier. Take a look at how he gets to the inside part of the bag. He comes out and makes the tag perfectly. Reminded me a lot, and watching him take ground balls, of a young J.T. Snow,
who was out here today with the Giants as he's a roping instructor and helps him out and helping Belt out up here and taking batting practice with him. He'd still look good with the glove. I watched him. Here we are, top of the second. One of the heroes last October, certainly, only became a Giant in late August. Cody Ross, waiver claim from Florida. Carpenter working quicker now, but he is behind. Well, it's 1-1. So to Cody Ross, who is 2-1, homered twice in that first game of the NLCS, and there goes the bat. That will go all the way over the dugout of the Giants and into the stands. Hopefully nobody is hurt. Let's hope not. Uh-oh. He might hit someone in the leg there. That bat, you just don't even want to get anywhere near it.
Completely fooled right there. A cut fastball. He was looking middle in. As you mentioned, Cody homered yesterday in his first at bat, leading off the top of the second, as he is now.
Well, he had so many big home runs in the postseason. He had the 2 off of Halladay. Halladay hadn't given up a hit yet in game 1 of that of the NLCS against the Phillies. He actually, and there goes the bat again, and it squirts past Berkman, who hasn't played much first this year as a Cardinal. Bat busted, and the ball busted in on Berkman. And Pujols is over at third saying, well, might I have had that over there at first? Who knows? That's a tough play when you're worried about the handle of the bat.
I think, yeah, I agree with you there. He didn't know exactly where that was, but I think there's a little bit of rust right there on the part of Lance. Not that difficult of a play. You don't know if they're going to protect the hometown team here and call that a base hit, but Lance would be the first to tell you that's a play he should have made easily.
So the Giants with the leadoff man aboard here in the second inning, Brandon Crawford. Called up last week when 3 moves were made. Young Crawford, 24 years of age, from Pleasanton, California, a 4th-round pick in 08. Had a broken finger, might have made the club, might not have, but he wasn't playing anywhere the first 6 weeks of this season. And to get ready, they sent him to the high A, the San Jose Giants, where he had 322 in a handful of games. Now Berkman is second. They can just get the lead runner, Ross. He's out. Fielder's choice, Crawford, is on. And, of course, working with us tonight, well, it's a regular night for him. I'm the one moonlighting. Carl Ravitch, good evening.
Hi, Boom. Welcome. And DirecTV with Bobby Valentine brings us to Jay Bruce, who delivers another RBI.
Yeah, 26 more, and he'll have as many as he had last year.
Which was 70. He is now just a couple behind Adrian Gonzalez for the major league lead as the Reds and Brewers 1-0 Cincinnati, Chris.
Nice to hear you, boys. Hope you enjoy my spot start up here from AA. Eli Whiteside. So a lot of eyes will be on Eli, who is a good defender, good caller of the games. All the Giants pitchers and players will tell you that. Just with Posey, he just wasn't going to play much. And even before that with Benji Molina. Whiteside, aptly named because you might see, well, you can't really tell with the helmet on. Here's a young man from Mississippi that was prematurely gray. He was gray at 18 years of age, and he's perfect to be called Whiteside.
Well, they're hoping that he's perfect to fill in as the full-time replacement for Buster Posey. And as you mentioned, Boomer, they love the rapport that he has with the starting rotation. And for the Giants, it starts there. That's the most important thing. But he has got to be able to hit somewhere around 250 if he's going to play every day.
Well, they don't have much choice at the moment. They called up a youngster that pitches high, Chris Stewart. Actually, not a youngster. I hate to call anyone a journeyman, but he's been around cups of coffee here and there, but pretty much a AAA catcher. And Bruce Bochy wants a catcher himself. He's hoping that with a chance, maybe Whiteside works to what you say, hitting 240, 250, and calling a very good game and throwing pretty well. They think he's got that down. The hitting, maybe repetition, will be helpful for him. You don't know until he has the chance.
I think Boch can help him a little bit right here by possibly putting the game in motion.
Crawford stays. Carpenter in up top. It's 3-1 to Whiteside with the pitcher up next, Vogelsong.
You know, that was one thing that Bruce Bochy did yesterday, being really aggressive in the early going, particularly when the game was tied or he had the lead. He was constantly putting his runners in motion with the hit and run. There's not a lot of speed there.
Put him in motion there, foul back, and now a full count.
And that's a great thing to do as a manager, because what you do is all of a sudden now somebody's got to go cover second base. You've already got the defense covering and holding him on at first base. That opens up completely that right side. As a hitter, you know that if you can just play pepper with the right fielder, you can pick yourself up a base hit.
Full count, 1 out, Whiteside up. Young Brandon Crawford will get tossed over by Carpenter. He slides back in. How about Crawford? Welcome to the major leagues, and in your first game, your first hit is a grand slam in Milwaukee. How's that going?
Doesn't get any better than that.
Well, what do you do after that? Nothing. That's the problem. Then what?
Do it again.
That'll be foul. I mean, how about that? I mean, are you kidding me? Friday night, first major league game, and on an off-speed pitch, gone.
And I tell you what, he hit it off Sean Markham, who has been throwing outstanding as well as anybody for the Milwaukee Brewers. That was not only a huge lift for the Giants, but the Cardinals appreciated that.
And on that list, which started in 1898, but only 6 guys have ever done it. First hit in first game being a grand slam. Whiteside hits it deep, but it will curve foul. That had a chance. So we'll do it again. But how about, of those names, and you dug this up, Bobby Bonds in 1968 in his first game, and what a player he was his whole career, but as a youngster with the Giants, and I watched him a lot. And who were the runners on that one in 1968? You had it.
Willie Mays, Willie McCovey, and Jim Ray Hart. How about having those guys at home plate waiting on you
That's
as you
unbelievable.
circle the bases in your debut?
That's unbelievable.
That might have been a dream you had as a kid, huh?
It might have been. Except I swung and missed. It was. I mean, other than Cepeda, who else are you going to put? You had every name possible. Whiteside through the hole, and digging is the youngster. Crawford will go into third. So Eli Whiteside, a nice bit of hitting, almost had a homer. Then does a good way of opposite field hitting and runners at the corners Giants.
Well, you've got to feel real good about yourself as a manager right now, because if he does not send the runner there, that is a routine ground ball double play. The inning would be over with. The pitcher would be leading off the next inning. But because of the aggressiveness, continuing to send the runner, that being Bruce Bochy, he did it on the 3-1 pitch, and he did it on every one of the full 2 counts there. Nice job of base running on the part of Crawford. That's when you know it's the hit and run, when the base runner turns around to look back to see what's happening. The aggressiveness gets him to third base with just 1 out.
And now up Ryan Vogelsong, who can swing. He's 4 for 13 this year with a double and an RBI.
He can move the wood. He's not like a lot of pitchers, Boomer, where they're just a statue up there until they get 2 strikes. You know, Bochy might want to be a little bit more aggressive here and look for a spot to put down a squeeze.
Well, they lost on one the other day to Milwaukee. Boch wouldn't mind. Well, there it goes through the hole, almost through the hole at short. Up to his feet quickly to get Vogelsong, his Terrio. But Crawford scores. Nice play at short, but the Giants on the board with an RBI for Vogelsong.
And another outstanding move on the part of the San Francisco Giants manager, Bruce Bochy. He's as good as they get in close ball games because of his aggressiveness and picking his spot. Take a look there. Even the slow running catcher, Whiteside, is off and running. Everybody started cheating towards second base. Terrio had to fall down to make the play, but because of it, you're able to get yourself the lead. You know, with Carpenter on the mound, normally runs are hard to come by. You turn the lineup back over, and as a manager, now you just sit back and watch.
So Andres Torres, now the leadoff hitter, looks at a breaking ball for a strike from Carpenter. Torres flew out to left field to start the game. Torres, a 10, 11-year minor leaguer who burst on the scene last year for the Giants. And again, you could go down the list of about a dozen players who burst on the scene as a Giant. He was toward the head of the list. Fielding, running, giving him some speed in a not so speedy lineup, atop the lineup. And just a hustler Infectious. His spirit is infectious, hence the Willie Mack winner, which is a really coveted award by the Giants players.
He finally put it together.
Lays off that breaking ball. 2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 outs, and a runner at second is the catcher Whiteside.
You know, we mentioned it in the first inning. The pace of the game is always set by the starting pitcher, and this is not the normal pace for a Chris Carpenter start. This seems to be a little bit of doubt in his mind right now as to which pitch to throw.
Breaking ball inside, and Torres draws a base on balls. So that's the second free pass given up by Carpenter. Now 3-2. My bad. I was all excited because I can't count. See, I'm rusty, Sut. Me and Carpenter, there's a little indecision in our delivery tonight.
Yeah, he's a little rusty, not being able to locate that curveball.
Like I said, strike 3. He's out of there. So, Giants get a run. Heading to the bottom of the second, 1-0 San Francisco.
At the catching position, there's always the little bit of anxiousness. Is he going to slide? Is he going to try to take you out?
You know, the players nowadays are so much bigger and stronger. That collision is pretty much like a football hit now.
At the end of the day, you're trying to be safe. You're trying to be, touch home plate. No one wants to get hurt. No one wants to really hurt anyone.
Ominous, that interview before the injury with Buster Posey. Lance Berkman steps in. We're going to go to our Buster only because each day, more and more thought. I mean, it's not the first collision, and it won't be the last that we've had. Eli Whiteside had one 2 days later against Fielder in the Milwaukee series, for example, and there have been many others. But teams discussing what they want their catchers to do, and not so much what they want the runners to do, and should there be a rule change, we're going to throw that around here once we get the leading hitter of the National League, Lance Berkman, and see how he does against Vogelsong. Breaking ball fouled off. Buster Olney, what have you heard around the league the last couple of days?
Well, Chris, even if there are not changes in the rules, there is going to be change. For example, today, General Manager Billy Beane of the Oakland Athletics went to his catcher, Kurt Suzuki, and told him, you're an athletic catcher. I want you to use your athleticism. I don't want you planting yourself in front of the plate waiting to get creamed. This is a type of conversation going on in organizations all throughout baseball, Chris.
Buster, how about any conversation? I mean, you're not going to change a rule in the middle of the year. What have we heard on that?
That there doesn't seem to, in the Major League Baseball offices today, and talking with people there, they say there's not a lot of conversation going on about changing a rule immediately, but we know that the San Francisco Giants have now been in contact with Major League Baseball, and Bruce Bochy has some ideas on that. Rick, you know about those.
Yeah, there's no question that Bochy realizes, how dangerous that is because he played that position. And he was talking about in football when they go helmet to helmet, a lot of, guys get fined hundreds of thousands of dollars. Well, the catcher's just a sitting target there. Really no way to defend himself, and the Giants are adamant that Buster Posey was not trying to block the plate. Well, when he, halfway down the line, he's got to make a decision. Am I going to try to slide in and avoid the tag and catch home plate with my hand, or is he going to drop a leg, come over and do the Mike Scioscia, plant himself in front of home plate and not allow me to get there? Cousins thought he was going to try to block the plate. He was being aggressive. Nothing at all dirty about what he did. It's just unfortunate. And to me, I totally agree with Billy Beane. I agree with baseball, with Bruce Bochy. Baseball needs to get ahead of the curve. Buster Posey was telling everybody, you know what? He was actually relieved that it was just a broken leg and that he wasn't like paralyzed in some sort of way.
Could there be, as Berkman walks and now Alan Craig, the left fielder's on, what kind of rule changes really could you put in? You could have the angle of the plate, right? Like the first base side is the catcher's. You can't come over to that side if you're sliding, right? So to me, and there's the first pitch in there for a strike to Craig. To me, can you legislate You can't go in high. You must go in below knees. What kind of things could you?
I've heard
effort?
managers talk about telling their catchers, you know what, if they're going to allow it to do them, then don't try to just tag them. Try to tag them in the head to keep them from trying to run you over. So this thing could really get out of hand if baseball does not step up. Boomer, the best plan that I have heard outlined is a lot like a guy running down the first base line. He can't stand on the line. He can't cross the line. He has to be in foul territory. To me, that has to be the same thing. A guy coming in to score, you know what? You've got the foul territory side of home plate. You cannot get into play where Buster Posey was made contact with. And a catcher also knows you cross the line over there, you're fair game.
Of course, there were those. You mentioned Mike Scioscia. I don't think there was anybody better.
No.
Doesn't mean that Scioscia couldn't have gotten hurt either, though. Just because the play usually ended when he blocked the plate. I mean, I remember.
Well, he got hurt. He got punished.
Yes.
But, well, he saved a lot of runs.
Here goes the runner Berkman, and it's foul back. So we'll redo the 2 and 2.
Well, you know what, Boomer? When I think back to Gary Carter, and I think back to Jorge Posada and Pudge Rodriguez, guys that have been in the game a long time, a lot of guys that are going to end up in the Hall of Fame, they never once blocked the plate. They were always trying to make that sweep tag, realizing that, you know what, if they get in the way one time, it could have ended their career or taken them out for the season.
I mean, do we shrug our shoulders and just say, hey, it's part of baseball? And
No, you can't.
I agree.
You can't. They don't allow the base runner to do that to the guy at second base. They protect the middle infielders now. You can't run over a guy at third base on a play like that.
Right.
It shouldn't be allowed behind home plate. And we've got to be aggressive with it. Don't wait until something worse happens.
2-2 again. Now the count is full to Craig with Berkman at first. None out here in the Cardinals' second, 1-0 Giants.
Well, Tony La Russa has already sent Lance Berkman once, so without a doubt, you would think he would be in motion here. Put a little bit of pressure on the hitter to swing at anything close.
Here he goes. Hit sharply to third. The look over by Tejada, but because he was running, had no play over to Belt, and the runner moves up. Speaking of Belts, the most famous collision at the plate, and many of us remember it, and Pete Rose in the All-Star game with Ray Fosse. Rose winning the game, bang. They had dinner together the night before. It changed a lot of things. Now Ray was interesting, right? Ray, this week he said, I don't think they should change it. What did he say? Although, with your definition of what's the first base side of the line and what's not, that would have been outlawed, I think, right? In your suggestion, Sud, for a rule change. They went inside the bag. I'm not saying Peter did anything wrong. Of course not.
I will say this. I think that being a former catcher, Major League Baseball has the perfect guy in Joe Torre in place there to get the decision right and to do it as quickly as possible.
This is Colby Rasmus, one of the young Cardinals. They have a young team. I mean, we know Berkman, we know Pujols, and we know Holiday, who's not in there tonight, but a lot of these guys, second time around the bigs, you know, they kind of understand it more. They know what's expected. They know how to do it. They know how to handle the highs and the lows. I mean, not that they're experts at it, but in talking with Mark McGuire, the batting coach, he told me that was the difference in the Rasmuses and the Jays and the guys that had a chance last year. Count is 2-1 to Colby Rasmus.
This kid here has got a lot of tools. Mark McGuire has talked about his home run power, 25, potential guy with stolen bases and home runs. A lot of improvement we have seen in him over the last 2 years.
That's up top. Count is 3-1. Rasmus, a former #1 draft pick in 2008 by the Cardinals from Columbus, Georgia.
You know, you just kind of think in 09, 251, 16 homers, 52 RBIs. Last year, 276, up 25 points, 23 homers, up 7, and 14 more RBIs than the first year.
Well, and in high school, he was in Alabama. His 24 home runs broke the state record for a season in high school held by a guy named Bo Jackson. And you can see what he's capable of doing.
There's that speed with the triples, the walks. He's actually walked more times than he's struck out here at home this year.
For the 8th time, the count is 3-2 in this game. We're only in the second inning set. Vogelsong in, and that's yanked but foul. So back to second base is Berkman. And Ryan Vogelsong will go back to work. Of course, Vogelsong, we started to tell you his story. It's really marvelous and a story of perseverance. And for any youngster out there who wonders, do I keep going at my dream? I'm pretty good at it, but things haven't fallen right. Do I keep going? And when you hear his whole story, the answer would be a ringing yes. And you have the support at home, and that's part of it, with his wife, who was eager to have him continue and give it another shot. Swung on and missed. So Rasmus is struck out. We'll get you that song, but singing in the studio, not so much about Vogelsong, but about other stuff. Carl and Bobby.
Singing a rough tune tonight for the Red Sox. Aceves is on the mound getting hit hard. As the White Sox won last night, Ramirez goes up the middle, and Chicago has a 5-0 lead. One of the things Bobby suggested, Boom, is that the catcher, in order to block the plate, needs to have the ball in his possession. Otherwise, he shouldn't be there.
Yeah, that would be part of it. I mean, there's all sorts of I don't want to call them nuances. And of course, Bobby, I'd actually love to hear his take on what he had his catchers do. I mean, Bobby had Pudge, and he managed the Mets. And
I don't remember Mike Piazza being in very many home plate collisions.
I know.
That Mike Piazza's bat was Buster Posey-like. I mean, even more so with the power. Guy in the heart of the order, your cleanup hitter.
Yadier Molina, a guy who's blocked the plate a couple of times, however, at the plate, and looks at ball 2. 2-0 for Vogelsong. Ryan Vogelsong. Original pick by the Giants. I want to call him a hum baby. I mean, and that was the nickname of a Roger Craig player, which he was not. But it was early in the run of Brian Sabian as general manager, and Dusty Baker was the manager. Vogelsong was a 5th-round pick in 1998. Pitched a few games in relief in 2000, and then pitched in 01 for the Giants. That's outside, so it's 3-1. He was 0-5, traded to Pittsburgh in a deal that brought Jason Schmidt over to the Giants, along with John. All in all, it's just another brick in the Vanderwall. That was in the middle of 01. Then with Pittsburgh, he was their opening day starter a couple of times, although the Pirates were already on lean times. But he won his last game. Ground ball to short. This should do it. Gobbled up by the youngster Crawford. Over to Belt. Will continue his story that next time he takes the mound. But it's a wonderful one, and thus far he's on the right side of a 1-0 game. ESPN Major League Baseball brought to you by One A Day Men's, the official multivitamin of MLB, specifically formulated for men. And the 2012 accent from Hyundai. Gateway to the West, the Arch. On this side of the banks of the Mississippi, St. Louis kind of welcoming you to the West.
Have you been up in that thing?
I've not been up in there. No, I have not. It'd be hot up there today, wouldn't it even?
I'm scared of heights. That's why I was asking you.
I mean, Empire State Building, Eiffel Tower, I've done that. I've not done the Arch. That I should. It's a beautiful view right over center field here, the Arch, right? It's so long been a symbol of St. Louis and hitting it hard, but at Pujols at third, who hasn't played much there since his first 2 years, but he looked pretty smooth there. So there's one out with Freddie Sanchez coming up. Major League Baseball continues right here on a Wednesday night. And, of course, we have Sunday Night Baseball as well. 8 Eastern, Tim Lincecum. You want to see him pitch for the Giants against, well, we hope Matt Holliday be in the lineup for the Cardinals. Then on Sunday Night Baseball at 8 Eastern, Chipper Jones and the Braves take on the rival Mets, led by Carlos Beltran. Baseball tonight begins Citi Field at 7 with Bobby and Crucky and, of course, Carl and the gang. And then on to the game at 8 o'clock. Freddie Sanchez. Breaking ball, Carpenter. Quickly ahead 0-2. Now he's a little quicker here to Sanchez.
Yeah, he is. And you know what? One thing as a starting pitcher, Boomer, you get out there in the first inning, and a lot of times you struggle and you search to find your rhythm. It's completely different than what it is down there in the bullpen. You add the big crowd. You add the adrenaline that comes with that, with Freddie Sanchez standing there at home plate with a bat. And sometimes it takes you a while to adjust, and as a pitcher, you have to slow things down.
Inside to Sanchez.
Carpenter once again, though, struggling with that curveball. By design, if he missed with that pitch, he wanted to miss down. His location was off by about 3 feet.
Well, you got Sanchez fishing on that. There's 2 outs. Carl, what do we have?
Boom, middle offense. This time it's from the bat of Corey Hart. And, of course, the Cardinals interested in what the Reds and Brewers are doing. Bobby V?
Yeah, we're interested because Corey Hart hit a 3-run homer here to put him up 4-1, possibly. And I believe the best team in that Central is the Milwaukee Brewers.
Brewers have had their troubles, fellows, with the Reds. They have a lead they like to hold on to. Bobby, while we have a chance, don't go away yet. What are your thoughts on when you were managing what you may or may not have told your catchers about blocking a plate through the years?
Well, as you mentioned earlier, Boomer, you know, I had Pudge Rodriguez and Mike Piazza. I think they're both going to the Hall of Fame, and I told them both I needed them to be there for 150 games. Brian McCann just the other day talking to him with the Atlanta Braves. He says he needs to be there for his 150 games. So you can't be sacrificing your body. That old idea of the catcher being the last one standing, I think is a ridiculous idea. That's what needs to be changed. And with the new gloves that we have today, you can catch the ball and make a swipe tag. You don't need 2 hands, nor do you need your body to tag a guy out.
Well, as you know, Bobby, you lose a catcher like Piazza or Pudge or Buster Posey or Joe Mauer, and it changes, which was not in a collision, changes the whole makeup of the squad.
Yeah, the catcher's so important.
Question right now with De La Rosa going down for the Colorado Rockies and Posey down for the Giants. The Diamondbacks are thinking they can win that.
Burrow fishing against Carpenter, so a 1-2-3 inning for the struggling Chris Carpenter. That's what Cardinal fans have grown accustomed to during his tenure here. Well, tonight's MLB theme cover world premieres by critically acclaimed artist and producer J. Cole. First artist ever signed to Jay-Z's Rock Nation label. Bottom of the 3rd inning. Ryan Vogelsong, Giants, lead the Cardinals 1-0. Skip Schumacher, one of the many Cardinals, has been hurt, the starting second baseman, just back a few games. He bats 8th, then the pitcher Carpenter and Ryan Theriot, the shortstop. You know, we started to tell you about the story of Vogelsong as he looks in at 1-1. So he was traded from the Giants to Pittsburgh in 01, was their opening day starter a couple of times. Won his last major league game in 2005. Pitched 20 times to the Pirates in 06, then went to Japan from 07 to 09, playing for the Hanshin Tigers and the Oryx Buffaloes. Combined 11 and 14 over those 3 years. Minor league in both the Angels and Phillies system last year, as that's fouled off by Schumacher. And then he didn't know, right? So like, do I have a chance? Am I going to have a home? And here came the Giants, his first team. And I don't mean to be trite, but his contract was pretty much a wing, a prayer, and a Vogel song. We promised you nothing. Maybe we'll have a spot somewhere for you. Barry Zito gets hurt. Meanwhile, he was lights out in 2 starts at Fresno. They call him up, and now here he is. And he's the 5th starter, but he's been awesome.
Well, you take a look at the numbers that he had over in Japan, 11 and 14, Boomer, as you mentioned. He didn't really do anything that was outstanding in AAA a year ago.
Torres is there. 1 out, Schumacher gone.
You go to spring training with the Giants, and you're not good enough to make that team. They're saying you're going to the minor leagues. You're going to be riding the buses again. I mean, there's a lot of people that would have said, you know what, it's just not working. I'm 33 years of age. It's over. But, you know what, talking with the Giants, we talked with Sabian, we talked with Bochy last night. He was starting to piece it together. He was always one of those guys, Boomer, that the tougher the spot would get, the harder he'd try to throw. That very rarely is the answer. When the situation gets tough, your location has to get better. And just watching him out there right now, look at the command of that fastball from side to side. He's able to spin it. The changeup seems to be much more confident than what I remember.
Swung on a miss by Carpenter. Buster Olney, I mean, it's a story that every baseball player with a dream will hearken to.
You're exactly right, Chris. Last year, he was released in midsummer by AAA Lehigh Valley. He went home for 6 days. He actually thought there was a chance he was never going to be able to pitch professionally again. And in that time, when he was at home waiting for the phone to ring, he made up his mind. If I get another chance, I'm going to make changes. And he thought the most important thing was to focus on his mechanics, pitch to pitch. That's when he got a call from the Angels to pitch in their AAA system. That started him on the road back.
And Buster brought up a great point this morning in our meeting about that and what the adjustments are. For instance, right there, he just missed with that slider to the outside corner. He missed so badly that even the opposing pitcher didn't take a chance at swinging at it. Now you've got a 2-2 count. You want to come back with something with some spin on it, but in the strike zone. You've got to make that adjustment to make it happen. For instance, Boomer, if you throw a high fastball as a pitcher, normally that means that your stride was too long, you got too far out in front, and your arm couldn't catch up. So immediately when you see that, the last thing you want to do is throw another high fastball. You make an adjustment. You soften your landing foot. You get your arm started a little bit sooner so that you don't repeat the same mistake.
Carpenter making him work a little bit. Let's take a look at our Everybody Wins segment, brought to you by J.C. Penney, and Everybody Wins, and that's the Giants rotation. Vogelsong, the only man in his 30s, 3-1, and look at the best ERA with 2-time Cy Award winner Lincecum, postseason hero Kane, no-hitter Sanchez. I mean, pretty good start. Barely getting a piece is Carpenter.
Boomer, I tell you what I think of when I see those guys in that rotation. I think about last year at the end of August when Giants general manager Brian Sabian brought the staff together and he said, you guys are better than this. He said, I know that. And what they do after going 13-15 during the month of August, they go 18-8 down the stretch and they catch the Padres in game 162.
And of all people, Carpenter with a base hit up the middle off Vogelsong. That's a good at bat by Carpenter. So he's not as confident on the mound, but he looked pretty confident at the plate. A career 110 hitter.
Well, here's a look at the K-Zone brought to you by 3 Olives Vodka. It was a battle. A lot of really good pitches that Vogelsong was hoping to get the out, and then he makes a mistake. It's almost like he gave in. He said, I got to get this over with. And Carpenter able to swing the bat a little bit. Not a lot. Not a whole lot of offense in his past, but Boomer, he does have 2 career homers.
And one in last year and one the year before. I read all the billboards except the one for 3 Olives Vodka. And you read that. What am I supposed to read into that?
I do.
Just asking.
I do what I'm told.
I'm just asking. I just don't. Some things aren't just a coincidence, you know, son. Work with you too long. Don't worry, I'll be back at the Richmond Flying Squirrels tomorrow. Don't worry.
Well, the worry right now for Tony La Russa is to get this offense going.
Up and in to Theriot, who flew out to right to start the game for the Cardinals.
Both the guys having a little bit of trouble with that curveball, and Boomer, it may have something to do with the humidity. You mentioned earlier today it's in the 90s. The humidity's right there with it, and you lose the grip on that pitch from time to time. You're basically going to eliminate it.
One pitch.
Look at that.
That'll be foul. You know, I just want to clean up a little bit. One other thing, you showed Brian Sabian and what he said to the team, but in showing those four guys, Tim Lincecum, the #1 draft pick. Matt
03.
Cain, a #1 draft pick.
02.
Madison Bumgarner, a #1 draft pick.
07.
Buster Posey was a #1 draft pick. It's now easy to say, well, of course those guys. With the draft coming up in just a matter of days next week, overlooked. In football, we overdo it. We do it for 4 months. It's all we talk about. And it's a nice knockdown by Tejada. Speedy Theriot, who'll get him over at first. I'll continue the thought in a moment. And now let's go back to the studio with Carl and company.
Hi, Chris. Thank you very much. Phillies, Nats, Cliff Lee starts. You figure pretty good shape. Instead, he's down 5-0 as Gillette watches Danny Espinosa knock one out of the yard. Only 4 hits for the Phillies, who've struggled on offense lately, though Utley does have one of those 4 hits.
You know, when you look at the numbers the last 3 years for Cliff Lee during the regular season, he's right around 500. Even with what he did down in Texas, he just has always become a different guy during the month of October until he ran into the Giants. Last year, the Giants being able to solve the genius of Cliff Lee, and they beat him
Yankees
twice.
Could not, of course. Well, the Rays. But the Giants was a different story. This is John Jay with Carpenter at second with a 1-0 Giant lead here in the third. 2 outs. My point is the draft comes up. And in football, we analyze, and then we analyze, okay? Overlooked is how did you do with your first and second picks in baseball? Because they don't play right away, you forget about most of them. You know, oh yeah, that was 3-4 years ago he was drafted. Well, how are those 4 guys doing that I just mentioned as #1 picks for the Giants? Just as an example, something to think about with the draft coming up next week in baseball.
Well, I think the big thing about what Brian Sabian has done is, and he's talked about it many times, we want to get all the information. You identify the ability right off the bat, but then we want to get to know about the person. Does he have the ability to learn?
Nice bit hitting a shot to left field and gets past Burrow. Carpenter will score. Jay will round second. He'll make it to third. 1-1.
Tough play there on the part of Pat Burrow. Not seeing a whole lot of time defensively out there in left field with 2 outs. He knew Carpenter was off and running. He knew that Carpenter was more athletic than a lot of pitchers. He wanted to come get it. He wanted to try to have a plate at the plate to keep the tying run from scoring. But when he couldn't come up with the baseball, you can see Jay in the athleticism. That ball was hit hard, as he's been doing throughout the course of this year. And the speed able to get him just 90 feet away from giving the Cardinals the lead.
And now Albert Pujols with the go-ahead run at third base. The person at John Jay. Obviously base hit, RBI, and an error, allowing the runner to go from first to third.
You know what's ironic about this? For the last 8 years, Boomer, in situations like this with 2 outs and Pujols up, a runner in scoring position, you'd see the catcher stand up with 4 fingers. Let's just put him on. We'll take our chances with the next guy. They're not doing that anymore with Holiday and Berkman here.
Grumble the deep short. Brandon Crawford over to Brandon Belt. 2 rookies dispose of Pujols, but the Cardinals have tied it up. We've played 3 here at Busch Stadium. 1-1. Welcome back, everybody. Chris Berman, Rick Sutcliffe, Buster Olney, and our Tuesday night baseball crew, if you will, in St. Louis. It's 1-1. Top of the fourth, Giants Cardinals. Major League Baseball and the Major League Baseball Players Association are working with Heart to Heart to help victims of the devastating tornadoes that have hit our country. Learn more about these efforts at hearttoheart.org. And of course, everybody's hearts are out to the folks. We've seen the devastating pictures in southwest Missouri, not far from where you live, in Joplin. I know that the Major League Baseball and the Players Association $200,000 on the way to start helping the people of that town rebuild their lives. Not much more to say except that was some of the most sobering pictures that we've ever seen, and we won't forget them for a long time. And you folks in Joplin, everybody has their heart and hopefully their hands out for you.
They need help. There's no question, Boomer.
Brandon Belt began the fourth inning with a base hit to right, and now Cody Ross is up. And, just north the county here in St. Louis in April, right? They hit by tornadoes. I mean, the weather, we don't need me to tell you. The weather has been the most severe in this country that I can recall at this stage of the year. I mean, it's not even hurricane season yet. It's not, the tornadoes, those pictures of that, of the width of that tornado is wider than anything we've ever seen. So,
and Boomer, even driving down from Kansas City a couple of days ago, getting by the airport here in St. Louis, a lot of that blue tarp over people's houses, which means that they lost their roof. They lost a lot of things there as well, right here in this community.
Our thoughts and prayers are with everyone whose lives upended, to say the very least. 1-1 the count to Cody Ross, MVP of the NLCS last year against the Phillies. Swung on a missed. Cody hurt early this year. They kind of rushed him back a little bit. So he hasn't really found his stride. We said he hit those 2 home runs off Halladay in game 1. And talk about a tone setter in the heavily favored Phillies in that NLCS. And of course, Cody didn't stop at that. He hit a homer off Oswalt in game 2. Oswalt hadn't given up a hit yet. Game we did on the radio, he hit a homer in game 1 off of Derek Lowe of Atlanta. And that won it, 1-0 Lincecum, and that started it. And this is the 2 off Halladay in game 1. I mean, they were holding up banners. Babe Ross, right? In the 3rd and the 5th. So Lowe, game 1 of the Braves series. Halladay game 1 twice in the Phillies series. Oswalt game 2 of the Phillies series. Talk about a tone setter.
And oh yeah, he went deep yesterday.
Yeah.
Setting the tone for a big win for the Giants. I just really remarkable what the Giants were able to do last year. They caught the Padres and beat them in game 162. They ended the career of Bobby Cox by winning the division series against Atlanta. Basically slayed Goliath when they took down the Phillies, trying to get back to the World Series for the 3rd consecutive year. And then they brought the World Series championship to San Francisco for the first time.
Carpenter looks good there as Ross strikes out. So he's down with 1 out.
Well, let's go back to the last half inning and take a look at an ESPN Axis. Oh, we're going to take a look here at Pat Burrell.
There was no axis on that play. That's the problem.
There was no contact either with that glove and ball. He comes in there feeling bad about it. Now, that's a good teammate to go up there and apologize right away to the starting pitcher. But more importantly to that, why don't you swing the bat and get me a run back, is what Vogelsong's thinking.
This is young Brandon Crawford fouls his pitch out. And of course, looking back at that thing, Carpenter, remember there was 8 pitches that Carpenter battled and then got on base, and then that was the result in the run. And Vogelsong drove in the only Giant run tonight. So both pitchers trying to help their own cause, literally.
Well, Madison Bumgarner yesterday only allowed 2 runs, and he scored 2 runs himself. So big part of the game here in the National League, Boomer.
That will be a base hit for Crawford. And Belt will stop at second base. Now you're all excited about this, Sutton. Let's go with it. Huh?
Yeah, I was. I think it's a great thing. The ESPN access. Let's take a look here at Bruce Bochy putting the game in motion and opening up a hole. Take a look. First baseman Berkman's covering there. Schumacher breaks to the bag. There's the runner off and running. Look at all of the territory that Whiteside had to hit a ground ball through that hole. Bruce Bochy knew that his catcher had been struggling, and anytime you get any kind of run support from the bottom of a National League order, you feel good as a manager.
Brandon Belt at second. Brandon Crawford at first. Eli Whiteside swings and misses. So let's see. I don't know that the Giants are going to be able to trade for Brandon Phillips at second base or Brandon Inge at third, but they could have an all Brandon infield. Just think about that.
You're the only one that thinks about things like that.
Maybe they could get Russ Brandon to come off the bat. I don't know. Just, these are, these are things that when you do one game a year, you're going to get from me.
Yeah.
That's why I only do one game a year. America's going, please.
Well, there's a couple of pretty good Brandons that you mentioned, and Phillips and Inge, and the Giants are hoping the same thing will happen to their two youngsters.
Chris Carpenter, 36 years of age. One time misses with that one, 2-1. Number one pick of the Blue Jays in 1993. And one of the, twice as a Cardinal, missed significant time. I mean a year and a half. And one story bears reminding as he's 2-1 to Whiteside. When the Cardinals signed him, Sut, in 03 from Toronto, they knew he wasn't going to pitch at all.
Yeah.
But we're going to sign you any shoulder surgery in September of 02, which ended his stint with the Blue Jays.
And he was basically a 500 guy when he came here.
And the Cardinals signed him in December of 02, knowing he wasn't going to pitch at all the next year. Maybe we got something the next year. Well, what has he done? As a Cardinal, from 03 to 2010, 84 and 33. And that's a team that said, we're willing to wait a year for you. I guess that was Walt Jocketty at the time right here, and with Tony. And Dave Duncan, of course, the pitching coach. God, this group has been together forever. Ripped just foul by Whiteside. Both of the Brandons might have been scoring on that.
Well, there's no question about that, Boomer. They were off and running. Whiteside with another real aggressive swing. You remember earlier in his first at bat, he almost went deep, and that ball just went foul. A great look there. Take a look at the positioning of Andy Fletcher, the third base umpire, getting the call correct, as opposed to what happened here yesterday when a call like that was missed.
Full count to Whiteside. He swings and misses. Carpenter comes back, pulls the chain a little bit. And Sut, you get to read this because it's your billboard.
Well, K-Zone is brought to you by 3 Olives Vodka. He saw what he did on that fastball on the inside part of the plate the last time. I'm not going to make that same mistake as Chris Carpenter. Painting the glove. No movement whatsoever from Yadier Molina on that 3-2 fastball.
So now 2 on, but the pitcher up, Ryan Vogelsong, is ground out in the second, accounted for the only Giants run. 4 for 14 on the season. Vogelsong swings and misses at that one.
This is a nice move here on the part of Carpenter, giving up on that curveball. I just can't grip it right now, and it's not doing me a bit of good. So what does he do? He goes to a smaller, harder, tighter breaking ball in that slider. Making adjustments as you go.
Quickly ahead 0-2.
Same pitch, same result, and really no reason to do anything else here. When they talk about a guy like these two pitchers being good hitting pitchers, Boomer, well, that means that they can run into a fastball once every now and then. They're not going to hit a good breaking ball.
Looks at that one outside, 1-2. To finish on Carpenter, because we talked about him. So after those injuries, comeback player of the year in 04 and 09, a 3-time All-Star for the Cardinals, including starting the game in 05 for the National League, The first Cardinal to do it since Rick Wise in 1973. You figure Gibson, Carlton, but it was Rick Wise, and then Carpenter.
Well, Chris is just another one of those guys that Dave Duncan has been able to turn around. A Dennis Eckersley, a Bob Welch, a Scott Sanderson, a Storm Davis, Kent Bottenfield, Jeff Suppan. And all he did was Carpenter was he moved him to the first base side of the rubber, opening up the outside corner to a right-handed hitter. And the reason for that is because he wasn't able to get the pitch there. He had to work too hard to get that location. This is just a much more direct route to that pitch where he throws the majority of the time.
Count is now 2-2 to Vogelsong with 2 on. Hit to center field, running a pretty good distance is Colby Rasmus. Well hit by Vogelsong, but alas, 2 Giants stranded. 1-1 game, bottom of the 4th.
Uribe long throw, got him at first base, and the San Francisco Giants are on the plate for the National League Championship.
Strike 3 called, and the San Francisco Giants are going to the World Series. Look at him! For the first time in 52 years, the Giants are world champions.
Bruce Bochy and the Giants won it all. Everybody knows the story by now. 1954, the New York Giants, young Willie Mays, playing in the Polo Grounds. Never had been done in San Francisco. And I know similar stories are told in Boston and in Chicago with the White Sox with these long droughts. But the letters, the phone calls, the happiness of just rank and file, just people. You should hear the people who went to the graves of their fathers and their grandfathers, and they shared a moment. People who, just the city, the million people that were out a couple days later for that parade and the ceremony at
people who,
City
for
Hall.
some reason, go hang out at Candlestick still when they're in town.
Yes, they do. Some people do. It was a. Well, again, when you wait that long and you have, and it's been a team that's had, my goodness, a colorful history in San Francisco.
Well, you think about 2002. It looked like it was going to happen then.
No, actually, we don't think about 2002, to be honest with you. Why did you bring that up? I was on a high here for a moment.
You know, and I really think that underneath that beard of Brian Wilson was Mariano Rivera last October, don't you?
That beard's grown a lot since last October. Look at that. I mean, that's housing all sorts of things now.
And
he
was
was awesome.
Still getting it done. He had 6 saves. He had a win. Of course, you know, they only needed 11.
Well, and what people realized was the Giants and their fans, and this is April 8th, Giants old and new, and you recognize some of the faces in the flag going up at AT&T Park. And the next day, the rings coming out on a silver platter. That's what they look like. And the Giants, like the Cardinals, one of those organizations that does it right, the first ring they presented was to the man who's been the clubhouse man since they moved into Candlestick.
Murph.
1960. Mike Murphy, one of the great people. And he got it before any of the players, any of the managers, the coaches. It was awesome.
Well, Brian Sabean, once again, as he did last year, has got a lot of work to do if he expects to get this team back there. He added Burrell. He added Cody Ross. He tightened up their bullpen so that Bochy had some options down there. They're going to need some help.
Well, they're going to make some deals. This doesn't happen overnight. As dealing is Vogelsong. And Lance Berkman, the hottest hitter in the National League, has struck out. Buster Olney, I mean, I can tell you for sure, and you know it, it was euphoria in the Bay Area and still is somewhat.
There is, and when you talk to executives with other teams in the National League West, they believe that the success the Giants had last year has now become a weapon, that they're so good playing in those close games that they really believe they're going to win. Dan O'Dowd, the Rockies general manager, told me last week he thinks this has become one of the Giants' real strengths.
Well, they have 7 walk-off wins thus far, most of them at home. 16-5 in one-run games, and they're doing it without scoring many runs. The key is, though, to get the good pitching every night, Buster, because in Sut, when you score 0, 1, 2, well, it's hard to win with 0, 1, 2, and 3 runs. The reason you're in these one-run games because your pitchers allow you to stay in it. They got a good bullpen too, but they're going to need some bats. Right up the middle goes Alan Craig with a base hit. So a 1-out single for him, Carl.
Hi, Boomer. We got Bobby V here. A little defensive miscue. There's been some good defensive plays tonight, but not here by Tolbert, Bobby, as he throws this one away. And you see it a lot when shortstops try to go to third.
Yeah, because you get off the wrong foot, and your momentum as he's running is going to cause velocity to that ball. You throw it away.
Tigers got a 4-3 lead over the Twins. White Sox leading the Red Sox 6-1, guys.
It's a head-shaking season thus far for the Twins. So you're just not accustomed. The team that somehow, some way gets in there every year is a contender every year under Gardenhire, and of course before that, Tom Kelly. No Mauer. They usually overcome things. This year, not so much.
Well, Justin Morneau has not been the MVP type player.
That's correct.
Joe Nathan is unfortunately back on the disabled list. Delman Young was on the DL. Jim Thome was injured. They just everything that possibly could go wrong has happened.
Yeah, they opened up that new park last year. They rode a lot of. I mean, that was a wonderful scene in there, and really contributed to a lot of wins. Just outdoor, great scene. They need more than the park. Colby Rasmus skies it, moving back, way back to center field grass is the young shortstop Brandon Crawford.
I'll tell you what, though, Boomer, that wasn't that tough of a play, but I like the way this kid takes charge. Watching him take ground balls the last couple of days, he's just got those natural instinct that a shortstop needs. He took charge right away there. That ball's up in the sky. I got it. He didn't care how far that ball drifted. He knew he had plenty of athleticism to make that play.
So now 2 out. Craig at first. Yadier Molina grounded to short his first time up. Chris Berman, Rick Sutcliffe, Buster Olney, our Ruby Tuesday baseball team crew here. And it's just so much fun to come to St. Louis. I mean, the fans are just so knowledgeable. They're into everything.
Such a great crowd to play in front of, Boomer.
You know.
I knew it as an opponent with the Dodgers, the Cubs. I knew it as a Cardinal. Having that red on. If you do something, if you hustle, if you make an above average defensive play, if you have a great at bat, they don't care what color of uniform you've got on. The people here will let you know because they do know the game of baseball. Either team. I mean, they root for the Cardinals, but you make one of those plays. Absolutely. You get the applause. And actually what stands out for me, not as the shining moment of the Cardinal fans, because they've been so many, and I mean, just the history from the Gas House Gang and Dizzy Dean and Frankie Frisch, even before Stan Musial, and Red Shingdings, who's still here at the cage watching it. I mean, before the game, you get to talk to Red Shingdings, and then the teams with Whitey Herzog as they continued. The Reds teams, of course, and the teams that won a couple in the 60s and were in the World Series. And, of course, Big Mac, so much of his career, and now trying to give back, enjoying the heck out of being the batting coach for his longtime manager, Tony La Russa. But one thing I remember, Sut, the 2-0 count to Molina, when the Boston Red Sox, who had not won in 86 years, well ballyhooed, won Game 4 at Busch Stadium, the other one next door here, and it was 3-0, and they ended up sweeping here. The fans stayed and applauded because they got it. They're not Red Sox fans here, but they got what it meant to that team and those fans. That was one of the classiest things I've ever seen in my years of covering baseball. Up the middle, off Vogelsong, and all hands are safe. Is Vogelsong all right? That could be a problem. Having been there many times, that ball caught bone. and it didn't really deflect or just kind of skip by towards the infielders or outfielders. That ball came right back down the third base line. That is right off the inside part of that left knee, and it is just going to continue to get more and more sore as this evening goes on.
Well, the Giants training staff out there. Greshner. Bruce Bochy out to take a look. Maybe he'll throw some to see.
I don't think there's any doubt that he'll stay in the ball game. I just don't know how much longer he's going to be able to stay in.
Well, while we see how Vogelsong is and Bochy back, trainer back, MLB.TV, baseball everywhere. Watch over 100 live out-of-market games every week online on your favorite devices. Visit MLB.TV for details. Would that mean you're prisoners of your own devices?
Here comes that hotel.
Well, it's Tuesday Night Baseball, man. We did it for a living for a while. Skip Schumacher up in a 1-1 game with 2 on and 2 out. Swing at the first pitch from Vogelsong, and there's Crawford back on the grass taking charge. So we won't know yet, but one pitch he got out of it, and that's a good sign. Now we'll see as Vogelsong sits with a 1-1 game. Always a festive time here in St. Louis. Everybody wearing red for their Redbirds. First place, St. Louis Cardinals. They and the world champion Giants are 1-1 here in the top of the 5th. Top of the lineup, Giants. Torres, Tejada, Sanchez. Third time around against Chris Carpenter. Again, you know, part of the head scratching first 2 months, and a lot of things in 2 months don't become 6 months. You know, Pujols, who knows what that'll be. Chris Carpenter 1-5. The team 2-9 Sut in the 11 starts that he's made this year. And this is for a pitcher as Torres looks at 2 balls. For whom the Cardinals overall in his starts 109-52 at 677 clip. Again, 2 months don't mean that that's the season. Hanley Ramirez is 100 points off, you know, batting for Florida. I mean, there's lots of things.
Well, the difference to me is Ramirez doesn't look healthy. I mean, he almost falls down as he tries to take that big swing. Carpenter says he's never been healthier. Albert Pujols is healthy. So for me, that is good news because of the track records that these two guys have. Carpenter just needs some run support, but not getting it again tonight.
Pujols, by the way, if you're wondering, boy, that looks like he's at third, not first. I guess every time you guys come here, he plays third. But he hadn't played there really much since his first couple of years. But as he said to me, with a big smile on his face, I said, playing third tonight, huh? He goes, any way I can get in the lineup. Yeah, right.
Well, that's what he did his rookie year. You remember when he played right field, left field, first, third. It gave Tony La Russa a lot of options as far as what kind of lineup he would put together. That's his second start. We had him 2 weeks ago on Monday night at third.
Berkman at first. Fouled back by Torres. But you know, one of the things he is proudest of, and he's won a career Triple Crown, meaning at some point in his 10 years, he's won a batting title, he's won home run titles, and he's won an RBI title, are the Gold Gloves that he worked very hard to win at first base. There's a base hit by Torres, and let me make a prediction right here. First pitch, he's going.
Really?
Yep. Just guessing. I like to do these things.
You know Flannery signs down there at third or
I
something?
will as I watch him. I don't, but...
Well, I think Tony La Russa has to have that in the back of his mind, too, getting kind of tired of watching this track meet that Bruce Bochy has put on. I wouldn't be surprised to see a couple of throws over. You really, though, don't need to pitch out unless you're trying to eliminate the hit and run because of Molina's arm.
I mean, and to run on Molina is saying something because he's always been one of the best defensive catchers.
He's as good as I've ever seen as far as throwing. Throwing behind runners to pick people off. Accurate.
And maybe Carpenter knows the signs too.
Well, I mean, it's back in the day when Vince Coleman would get on. If he didn't trip, if he got any kind of jump at all, he was off and running.
There he goes. Throw by Molina. Safe. I am the Swami, you know.
You're the Swami, but I don't think Skip Schumacher took this throw as he should have. That throw beat Torres to the plate. Looks like it was another hit and run. There's the throw right on the money. But look at Schumacher. Why is he 3 feet in front of the bag to take the throw? Let the throw come to you. Be there in position to apply the tag rather than having to fall backwards to apply it. Molina knows that he did everything right. He just didn't get any help from the second baseman.
Stolen base Torres. Go ahead run. Scoring position. Miguel Tejada swings and misses. 0-2. Torres really the only guy that can move in that lineup. Well, the youngsters Belt and Crawford look like they run okay. I mean, they don't have much track record yet. But other than that, the Giants aren't going to exactly make you think of Vince Coleman, is my point.
And he was really the only guy last year for the Giants that could put himself in the scoring position, not only with the stolen bases, Boomer, but he had over 40 doubles last year in that breakout season in his career.
They do have a speedster. They had to put him on IR. There's football on the DL, and that's Darren Ford. I mean, his hitting all right, but he can fly, and they use him in pinch running situations. His running on the base paths last year on September 1st was one of the biggest games of the year for the Giants against Colorado. But he's not here to help him now, and Tejada can't help himself. Swung on a miss, strike 3.
Well, another strikeout on the part of Chris Carpenter. That is 7 on the evening. And we talked about him giving up a lot of homers and a lot of hits on mistakes with the fastball. Well, what makes your fastball that much better is when your secondary pitches are in play. Look at the sliders. There's the curveball. Now, all of a sudden, a fastball up, missed his location. A couple of them aren't being hit with authority, Boomer, because the hitters for the Giants have a lot of other things to think about here this evening.
17 swings and misses against Carpenter. Now it's Freddie Sanchez. Seven strikeouts. That's a season high already for him.
Strikeouts have been down, and the hit total has been up. Carpenter more hits than innings, which is rare for him. Also had allowed 8 home runs in his first 11 starts.
Sanchez overleaping Schumacher, and here comes Torres, and he will score, and the Giants lead it 2-1.
Well, you can see now why manager Bruce Bochy moved Sanchez to that third spot. He's really the only guy that has been swinging the bat with authority. Another breaking ball. He stays inside of it, drives it right back up the middle. And when Rasmus isn't able to come up with it, how about the hustle on the part of John Jay? If he is not back there backing that play up, assuming that Rasmus was going to get it, that would have been at least a triple.
So Schumacher, a little tag, not executed properly, as you point out. But Rasmus missing. Don't know they would have had Torres anyway. Still little things. Neither team, considering that they are both contenders, St. Louis first place, the Giants have been in first the last couple of weeks until Arizona passed them. Neither team playing defense the way they should.
Well, and they haven't been doing it all year long, Boomer. It's been a problem for both of their clubs. And when you think about the postseason a year ago, the 8 teams that got in there, well, 6 of them were in the top 7 as far as fielding percentage was concerned. So run prevention a lot more important now than it has been in a long time.
The Giants have a similar one. Little better, not by much. Inside Burrell. 1-1.
Now Tony La Russa has got to start doing some thinking. First of all, hoping Chris Carpenter can get out of this inning with the heart of the order for the Giants coming up, but also his pitcher spot due up first in the bottom of this frame.
Burrow foul.
How about the impact that Pat Burrell had? Had to make a phone call himself to Brian Sabean saying, look, I'd like one more shot. Volunteering, saying I need some at-bats to go down to AAA. And then hitting 18 home runs once he put that Giant uniform on. Hit that big 3-run homer in Game 2 of the division series.
But it just didn't work in Tampa. Of course, Pat the Bat, one of the most prodigious home run hitters as a Philly. It just didn't work in Tampa, but it did with the Giants. This is the team he grew up rooting for.
He didn't like that designated hitter thing.
Oh, he's punched out, didn't like it. Painting the corner is Carpenter. Carl, Bobby, what do you have?
Hey, it's Corona Light, Boomer, that brings us to Tampa Bay in Texas, and Matt Joyce. Bobby?
Against C.J. Wilson, this guy's leading the league in hitting. This is his second home run against left-handers, and he takes an outside fastball, pulls it to tie the game.
Yeah, baseball tonight follows your game, Boomer.
Well, two teams that put on a very exciting 5-game ALDS last year. Everybody winning on the road, right? I mean, they couldn't win at home in that series.
Well, that 5-game series was all about Cliff Lee winning Game 1 and Game 5 to get the Rangers into the next round. They eventually beat the Yankees in 6 games and got to the World Series.
Brandon Belt, the rookie. Now he's going to be one of those that's already in my nickname career. He has now tied the record because he has 4 nicknames. Brandon Solo Belt, 2-run Belt, 3-run Belt, or bases loaded Belt. Now whose record did he tie? Pitcher back in your day.
The Hall of Famer?
No, Jim Gott. Remember him, the reliever?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Jim got the win, got the loss, got the save, or got no decision.
I thought you were going to talk about our buddy Be Home by 11.
Well, that's just the best nickname. He just had one. And it was almost the 11th hour that our friend Bert Blyleven made it to the Hall of Fame, and well-deserved. Although, you know, Bert Be Home Blyleven, I mean, that's because every parent said it, every kid heard it. Brandon Belt, probably not old enough to, probably just old enough to stop hearing it from his folks.
Well, and thinking about Bert Blyleven and all the years that he spent with the Minnesota Twins, and now I know you were really close with Harmon Killebrew.
Well, we're going to talk about him coming up. I was, and baseball lost a great, not only a great player, but a great ambassador of the game, and one who was larger than life as a human being, Harmon Killebrew. And I know Bert spoke at his the public funeral, if you will, remembrance. To be continued. Cody Ross up with 2 on for the Giants. 1 run already home. 2-1 lead. And Belt has been on twice tonight. Ross singled and struck out.
Carpenter with a lot of pitches here just to try to get through the 5th inning. Already over 100.
Oh, inside to Ross.
Yeah, and that's what happens when you start to lose your legs a little bit. The humidity, the moisture on your hand creates the baseball being slick. You try to overthrow, reach back for a little bit more, and you can't get it down. Nowhere near where Carpenter wanted that, nor Cody Ross.
Hitters count 2-0. Ross digging in against Carpenter with 2 on. Skies it. Molina grabs it. Giants strand 2 more. They do get 1 to grab a 2-1 lead. Chris Berman, Rick Sutcliffe, Buster Olney, and our Ruby Tuesday baseball crew here. And the day after Memorial Day in St. Louis, the Giants lead at 2-1. Matt Holliday originally in the starting lineup for Tony La Russa tonight. Tweet, I watched him at batting practice, didn't look fine, was smiling. They elected not to go in the outfield. His squad tweaked. He's the pinch hitter, and that's it for Chris Carpenter. Gone after 103 pitches. 5 innings pitched, 7 hits. Did strike out a season high 8. But unless the Cardinals rally here, he is on the he stands to lose it and cannot win it. Holiday 344, tied, a virtual tie, first place with Berkman for the hitting lead.
Yeah, we did the game yesterday on radio with Dan Shulman, and we saw him go down the line here. If he could have beat that out, that could have led to a big inning. But you could see there, Matt had to pull up right there, and we did not think that he would even be in the starting lineup tonight.
Good pitch, Vogelsong, and Holiday is a quick exit. How about that?
Well, it's only the second time this year that Matt has been put in that role, and it just simply didn't look like he was ready. Breaking ball on the outside corner, paint for strike 2. And then this pitch, I mean, that pitch is up and out over the plate. Clearly, Matt Holliday thinking that he was going to waste one, try to get him to chase a pitch. Vogelsong said, none of it. I've got the lead right now. I want to keep this one.
So the top of the order, the shortstop over 2 is Ryan Theriot. Make that 1 for 3.
That is now a career high 14-game hitting streak for the Cardinals shortstop.
A little long ago, Theriot and Mike Fontenot were the double play combination with the Cubs. Fontenot on IR with the Giants. 15-day IR. See, there I go again. I'm just missing football. You know, the DL for 15 days, and here's Theriot playing very well, hitting about 300 as a Cardinal. So tying run aboard, John Jay up. He's 1 for 2. John Jay has had a hot bat, Buster.
That's right, guys. And it was Albert Pujols who's really created the situation for John Jay. You remember earlier this season, he went to manager Tony La Russa and said, hey, I can play third base. That way they move Lance Berkman in the infield. Jay gets the start. As La Russa said, this is a sign of a true superstar, Chris.
Well, I think the big thing is Tony La Russa trying to make up for the lack of offense when Freese went down. Their everyday third baseman injured once again. The guy was off to a great start. He's been an RBI machine at the minor league level, but just can't stay healthy. Descalso was out there at third base yesterday and just looked overmatched against Madison Bumgarner. Struck out in 2 at-bats. Tony pinch hit for him the 3rd time around. So credit to Albert Pujols for being more concerned about the name, as they say, on the front of the jersey than the one on the back.
Now look, business is business, and we'll see what happens. And we can talk about it with Pujols, we go with Buster, etc. But 11 seasons a Cardinal. You'd like to think that he would start and finish here. Although they offered him one heck of a deal, reportedly, before the start of the season, and now they're not talking about it. Hit well, going back is Torres at center, but he has room. And Jay is out, 2 outs. So here we are on May 31st, and Buster Olney, I mean, look, there's no conversation. Albert himself said, can we not talk about it this season now? And where does that stand, and could that change as this year unfolds?
Well, there haven't been any contract talks between Pujols and the Cardinals, but in talking with rival general managers, they do say that if Pujols continues to hit this way, a .265 batting average, is on pace for about 27 homers, that it could affect the volume of teams that get interested in Pujols in the offseason. A couple of GMs have said to me, hey, if he has a Pujols type year, He's going to have a lot of bidders, but if he doesn't, that might drive him back into the arms of the Cardinals.
Wouldn't be the worst thing, Buster. Inside Albert. 9 homers, 9 home runs, 30 RBIs this year.
Well, talking with the Cardinals and Albert, you know, he's the one that said we're not talking till the season's over with. So it looks like no matter what, he's going to take a look at what's out there and available. Boomer, I agree with you. I think it would be an absolute shame if he didn't end his career where he started, right here in St. Louis. You just stop and think. If he gets off to a start like this, and he goes and all of a sudden he's the highest paid guy in the game, and he's in Boston or New York or even Chicago with the Cubs, Washington, he's hitting 250. He's going to be getting booed in every at bat rather than absolutely adored and applauded here. I mean, no matter what he does the rest of his career, they will love him.
That's for sure. Vogelsong pitching away to Pujols. 3-0. 2 out, runner at first. Berkman, the leading hitter in the National League, on deck.
Both of these starting pitchers, even though they've not given in, they've been on the edge all night of giving up some crooked numbers, as they say, more than 1 run at a time. Carpenter out of the game now. You wonder how much longer Vogelsong will be here.
Albert draws a walk. Now the 31-year-old Pujols will walk, and that'll send the runner Terrio over to second base. So highest first baseman contracts. Gonzalez just signing his, of course, with the Red Sox. You see Teixeira and Howard and Miguel Cabrera.
Well, I don't think the problem for the Cardinals is the amount of money. It's just, Boomer, the number of years. How much longer is Albert Pujols going to be Albert Pujols?
Well, no one knows.
No. And we know now that you know, in the game of baseball, guys aren't getting better as they get older as they did there for a while. So you kind of go back to when people said your prime is 28 to like 32, 33. Well, Albert's 31 years of age right now. I mean, that's only a couple of years away.
2 on, 2 out. The Giants lead 2-1 here in the 5th. The dangerous Lance Berkman. So many years the quote enemy with the Astros. Now a Cardinal. Holds back off that one, takes it ball 1.
And this is where he does most of his damage. Runners in scoring position and from the left side of the plate. Remember a few years ago in Home Run Derby, he hit right-handed.
Yep.
That was because of the ballpark.
Yep. Shot. 1 hop to Sanchez. Over to Belt. 2 are stranded. Berkman's out, and so are the Cardinals, heading to the 6th inning in St. Louis. 2-1 Giants. ESPN Major League Baseball brought to you by the all-new Audi A7. Sunset here in St. Louis. Beautiful shot of the Mississippi River, the Arch. Our pitching summary for the night brought to you by Wells Fargo. Ryan Vogelsong still in. Chris Carpenter pinch hit for. Pitched well, not economically. Had a season high in strikeouts, but on the losing end of a 2-1 game thus far in the 6th. And this is Jason. It's Mott to be good. The 28-year-old reliever from Port Huron, Michigan, comes in against Brandon Crawford.
It's all about 20s there. 22 games on the year. ERA right at 2.01. Power guy, Boomer. 95% fastballs.
And that was sat on by Crawford. Crawford just jumped on it, hit it to the corner, and very quickly, hello, here's a double. So Brandon Crawford has scored a run, singled, and now doubled.
And more importantly for the Giants, with their starting rotation and pitching being the number one thing they look at, he's played a solid shortstop. We're seeing some power right here. He knows what's coming. They've talked about it. They saw Mott yesterday, nothing but fastballs. He found one that he liked.
So there's Eli Whiteside, the catcher, with Buster Posey gone for the year. 1 for 2, fouls it off. Now look at Mott. Now, we had fun with your mustache at the beginning of the show, which, I mean, I grew back myself. But now look, now that's a late 70s. Those sideburns, I hate to say, I had them once.
Those?
Yeah, we had, not exactly, but kind of down that far.
That looks like a lot of work to me.
It is a lot of work. It's not the best, you know, it didn't last. I had it for about a year. Mid to late 70s. We all were there. I think we remember that, don't we?
A little bit surprised here that Bruce Bochy not thinking sacrifice bunt. You know what it tells me? That even though Aubrey Huff is out there in the on-deck circle, there's a real good chance that Vogelsong is going to come out and hit.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, so now do the Giants, do they go with Whiteside and Chris Stewart, who's, I mean, at the moment, just a call-up and a guy? It's hard to come up with a catcher. You know, okay, we need a catcher. Let's go get one, Brian Sabian. It doesn't quite work that way.
You know, one thing we know about Brian Sabian, he's not going to show his hand to the other general managers. If he makes one phone call saying, you know, do you have a catcher available, word's going to spread, and then everybody's just going to try to get everything they can out of it. People know that Buster Posey is gone for the year. And you know what? If they've got a catcher they want to move, they'll call Brian Sabian.
Well, I mean, very quickly it was, well, what about Benji Molina? He was a Giant to the middle of last year, of course, finished up at Texas and played against him in the World Series, etc. But that won't be happening. That's not happening.
And we're getting word that Pudge Rodriguez will not happen either.
We'll get Buster and our Buster in on that in a moment. Buster, what do we know on this?
After Buster Posey got hurt, Chris, the Washington Nationals called the Giants and basically offered up Ivan Rodriguez and offered to talk about him, but the Giants really didn't give an answer because, as Rick knows, what the Giants really value is a catcher who works very well with their pitching staff, and Eli Whiteside knows the Giants pitching staff, and that's the route they've chosen for now.
Swung on and missed by Whiteside, so 1 out here against young Mott. And now Huff will bat, so that'll be it for Ryan Vogelsong, the pride of Kutztown State, the alma mater of Andre Reed, hopefully one day a Hall of Famer in pro football. Also Bruce Harper from Kutztown State. But he stands to win it, not lose it. John Mobley, linebacker, Denver. And now Ryan Vogelsong of the, now they call it Kutztown University out in Pennsylvania. Aubrey Huff really struggling this year. What a season he had. I mean, he was their most valuable hitter for the entire season. No question.
Well, he led them offensively in a lot of categories. But this has kind of been the history of Aubrey Huff. Kind of an every other year type guy.
Aubrey, who waited so long, 1,479 games before his first postseason game last year in October.
Played on a lot of bad teams, didn't he?
Early Devil Rays.
Yeah.
They say no more.
Put up some big numbers there. Had big years, but a lot like last year. Hit 290, 86 RBIs, but in 09, 241. Is that trend going to continue, or will he pull out of it?
There's a broken bat, and, you know, when you're going bad, there it is. So the pinch hitter for Vogelsong, Huff, is out. Carl, Bobby, back to the studio.
All right, Chris, thank you very much. Texas and Tampa Bay, 2 high-scoring teams, although a close game here until Joel Peralta gets wild. That allows the go-ahead run to come in for Texas. Score there is now 4-3 Rangers.
Yeah, 2 teams, Texas first, although a tight division. Tampa Bay, You know, that East is, with Toronto better and Baltimore not bad, pretty interesting. In Boston, of course, the 0-6 start, people were jumping into the Charles River saying it was over. Stop it. They're good. The Yankees are not going anywhere.
Well, the Red Sox had a lot of really good players, but they weren't a really good team. They are now.
Well, Beckett is Beckett again. That would be, for me, reason one. Jeremy Affeldt, the oft-used left-hander, is throwing. So Vogelsong is done. Knight is done. And he is hoping to get a run in here, but hanging up there for John Jay is that shot by Torres. So a leadoff double wasted to Crawford. 2-1 Giants heading to the bottom of the sixth.
He swings it. It's a high drive to left center field. He's going back, still going back. It's off the wall. And the Giants can celebrate.
Swinging a high drive. Way back goes Rasmus onto the warning track. He dropped the ball. And the Giants have won the game.
The Giants have 7 walk-off wins this year. Those 2 early in April at home against the Cardinals when they took 2 of 3 from St. Louis. The Giants and the Royals tied at this moment 2 months into the season with 7 wins in their last at bat. New pitcher, as Vogelsong was pinch hit for, is oft used, and a guy that one time spent some time with the Royals. Jeremy, as good as Affeldt.
You know what? He's been really good for the San Francisco Giants. He was bounced around a bunch of different places early in his career, but really seems to have found a home here. A couple of years ago was as good as anybody in baseball. Decent last year for that World Series team.
Scuffled in a couple outings this year. One hopper that's handled by Brandon Crawford over to Brandon Belt, and Alan Craig is out on 1 pitch from Affeldt.
Well, let's go back and take a look at Vogelsong tonight and why he was successful. Look at how proud he is of the command of that fastball. Good late movement, keeping the ball out of the air for the most part. But what I love was how he was able to elevate that fastball at will. You know, Kobe Rasmus doesn't like it up there. If Berkman has a hole, it's above the zone with the fastball. And his command, even though, you know, he walked a couple of people, he struggled a little bit, the command of that #1 was good.
Affeldt gets a slow bounder, and Affeldt is over there to take the toss from Belt. So very quickly Rasmus is out, and this is Vogelsong tonight, who can only win it, can't lose it.
Pretty much has been his numbers since he joined the rotation back on April the 28th. This guy has figured it out. Started to piece together what it's all about to be a major league pitcher, and still has the ability to go out there and get it done.
And remember, it hadn't appeared in the majors since '06 until he came in and replaced Barry Zito, the injured Barry Zito. Still not ready to come back. In the rotation,
what would
late
they
April.
do if he came back? Go to a 6-man rotation?
No, I doubt that.
Well, there's not room for him right now.
He knows that.
And you know, we remember Barry was not on the postseason roster last year.
After having a good year for the Giants, they ran out of gas late, whereas their other pitchers certainly did not. Sut. Yadier Molina is ahead in the count, 2-0.
Here's where Yadi, once in a while, instead of wearing out right field as he does most of the time, he'll cheat on a fastball and try to leave.
But he goes to right field, as you suggest, most of the time. And Cody Ross said that was pretty efficient 1-2-3 inning for Jeremy Affeldt. Played 6 here in St. Louis, 2-1 San Francisco. ESPN's coverage of Major League Baseball continues tomorrow and Sunday night. Tomorrow night, same, well, not the same bat time, but the same bat channel at the same bat ballpark. Tim Lincecum Giants, Albert Pujols and the Cardinals, 8 Eastern. Sunday night, 8 Eastern, Chipper Jones and the Braves. Carlos Beltran and the Mets in New York. Baseball tonight at 7. We start at Citi Field. Then the game comes on at 8. So hope you can join us we're just so proud to present baseball. Been doing it here since 1990. So in year number 22 here on ESPN. 2-3-4 for the Giants against Jason Mott, the relief pitcher for the Cardinals. Miguel Tejada looks at a 1-1. Freddie Sanchez and Pat Burrell. Tejada 1 for 3.
One thing I have noticed is after the first at bat for Miguel Tejada, John Jay is playing a lot deeper than he was in that first at bat when Tejada hit a line drive that got over his head and would be caught right now with the positioning that he's at.
You know, also, he was looking right into the sun back then. I mean, that was a factor, too.
He's a good outfielder, though.
He's a good-looking player. Little nubber. Mott got Tejada. 1 out. Time for SportsCenter right now. Carl Rabbit.
SportsCenter right now, the Mavericks and the Heat. Game 1 of the NBA Finals is currently airing on ABC as the first of the best-of-7 begins. You'll be able to see SportsCenter on ESPN News right now. Baseball tonight after your game.
All right, Robbie, thank you. And Freddie Sanchez is up. Freddie 1 for 3. He drove in the go-ahead run with a single in the 5th. Finals time. The NBA starts tonight. And, you know, I'm excited about the hockey. It's been great. Stanley Cup players have been great. And Vancouver and Boston, an intriguing finals. Coast to coast. You talk about a travel route. That would be one. And that begins tomorrow night in the Pacific Northwest. Great hockey. It's been fun to watch. We had a 1-0 game in the seventh game for the right to go to the Stanley Cup Finals when no penalties are called. That is as good as it gets in sports. Boston beat Tampa Bay. It was awesome.
I just think about the beating that those guys go through.
They're unbelievable.
And how they just keep on going.
Every 2 nights we're in another place.
So much respect for hockey players.
It's a great sport. Tough sport. Sanchez makes Hensley Bam Bam Mullins in the first base coaching box while Roberto Kelly was at a graduation. Mullins the hitting coach, and Bam Bam had the old soft shoe for a moment. Count is 0-2 remains to Sanchez. So it's not the Vince Coleman Memorial Tarp, is it, over there? And he's gone. Not Vince, that fan.
You just don't want to do that. If it comes into the stands, it belongs to the fans. Those were great seats he had, too.
Yeah, he did have good seats. Thought he was at a water park there for a moment. Diving is Schumacher, and diving but not beating the throw is Sanchez.
Listen to this crowd. They love it all the way around. They know what good baseball is, and they know how to show their appreciation. How about Schumacher? You're talking about a converted outfielder going and getting it, coming up with the perfect throw. Berkman, I think, kind of in disbelief. All right, you got there? Really? You're going to get the throw off? Well, Berkman was perfectly stretched out to get that throw. Hustle on the part of Sanchez. He knows how important this game is.
A lot of diving. Fan, then second baseman, then batter. All within about 20 seconds. And a good call on top of it by Jim Reynolds at first base. Pat the bat. Burrell is up. Walked and struck out twice against Carpenter.
He's always been one of those guys that when he makes contact, I mean, he puts up big numbers because he hits the ball so hard.
Oh, Pat, born in Arkansas, although he grew up Bay Area. Not far from here. And of those players born in Arkansas, only one has more homers than Pat Burrell. Brooks Robinson. Burrell gets the second walk of the night.
Now how important is that play on the ball hit by Sanchez?
Brandon Belt struck out, singled, and walked.
We've talked about the defense and how both of these teams need to improve. And a lot of times that's just making the routine play. That's actually taking a hit away from somebody.
Dave Duncan will go out to talk with Mott. Well, now we more than talk with him. We'll say we'll see you. So Mott departs. We will be back. Trevor Miller going to come into pitch. Giants lead it 2-1. Wheels turning here in the 7th. Back here in St. Louis, where Nate Scherholtz, who's goes into pinch run for Pat Burrell, has done it with the bat and glove this past month for the Giants. Trevor Miller, the new relief pitcher for St. Louis.
Specialist just for situations like this. 24th appearance of the year and just barely over 10 innings.
To the lefty Miller, to the lefty Brandon Belt. And he misses for ball 1.
Here's another one of those situations, Boomer, where guys like Brandon Belt with big numbers in the minor leagues, you don't see them do this in AAA. They don't bring in a left-hander just to get a left-hander out down there.
Breaking ball away, 2-0. Game started by Ryan Vogelsong and Chris Carpenter, both out now. They are the pitchers of record at the moment. Miller to the rookie Belt. Gives him green light. And that'll fall into the seats. Miller is just turned 38. He's been around a few.
Well, and you can see there that he starts on the third base side of the rubber just to kind of create an angle as he throws back against his body to create as much deception as he can to that left-handed hitter. The majority of the time, that's all that he is going to face, and he knows that he's not overpowering. He can spin it a little bit, but it's the deception that is most important for him.
That hit Belt and might have hurt him right on the wrist. The training staff again. Dave Gressner, Bruce Bochy coming out. We take a look at their young first baseman.
I think he might have been looking breaking ball. Look how long he stays in there. And then all of a sudden, as he decides to try to get out of the way, that's just too late.
That hurts.
Sounded like it hit the bat, didn't it? I mean, that means it's bone. That's a tough one there. And you know that Vogelsong is going to be sore. That line drive that hit up the middle off his knee. Tough night, tough baseball game thus far for the Giants.
So Belt to first, though. Pinch runner Scherholtz at second. 2 on, 2 out. The Giants have had a lot of chances. What are they, 1 out of 11 in runners in scoring position here? In there for a strike to Cody Ross.
A little bit surprised here that Tony La Russa did not have a right-hander
1 of 12,
ready.
sorry.
He's taking a chance right now that with one swing of the bat, Cody Ross does not decide this ball game.
Yeah. He's got a lot of confidence in Miller. Not necessarily on pitches like that. The reason I say that, since 2003, no one has appeared in more games. Nobody. Tony did that back with the A's, right? With Honeycutt. I mean, we can go back a long way. Now we had the...
Probably the main reason, Boomer, that he does not have a right-hander here now is the fact that he went to the bullpen so early and so often yesterday.
Swung on a miss by Ross. 1-2.
A really good changeup here on the part. You got a guy aggressive looking for a fastball. 3 Ollies vodka there, giving us a good look at K-zone.
That olive was outside. One-two pitch to Cody Ross. Up the middle, base hit. Here comes the pinch runner, Sherholtz. He'll score. Ross delivers with 2 outs, and the Giants have a little bit of a cushion, 3-1.
I really think a lot of that at bat right there has to do with one of the rare bad starts by Kyle McClellan yesterday. When he got knocked out in the 4th inning, he gave up 5 runs to these Giants. Tony La Russa, in the first game of a 4-game series, had to go to his bullpen. He used a lot of people. They threw a lot of pitches, and he did not have a right-hander ready to go there. And you see Cody Ross loving the opportunity to drive in runs against a left-handed pitcher.
So now lefty Brandon Crawford is up. He's 2 for 3 and a run scored. Runners in the corners, 1 run home. Giants want more. The youngster had a grand slam Friday night in Milwaukee in his first major league game, his first major league hit. This won't go so well. Ground ball to Schumacher, over to first to Berkman. The 1 run came in for the Giants. 7th inning stretch time here in St. Louis. Giants 3, Cardinals 1. Welcome back. It's 3-1 Giants, bottom of the 7th. Coming up next, baseball tonight, presented by 3 Olives Vodka. We got 3 Olives, just 2 guys. Carl Ravitch and Bobby Valentine have been with us all night. They can handle it. As expected, Cody Ross moves from right to left, and the pinch runner Nate Sherholtz, who went in for Pat Burrell, will be the new right fielder. As we are in the 7th inning, Jeremy Affeldt working his 2nd inning of relief. 8-9-1 for the Cardinals. Skip Schumacher leads off. Affeldt misses outside. It's 1-1. Very quick 6th inning by Affeldt. He's hoping for the same here.
Always had good stuff.
Breaking ball in there for a strike. 1-2. Schumacher 0 for 2. 3 runs, 9 hits, 1 error, Giants. 1 run, 6 hits, no errors, Cardinals. And Affeldt 4 up, 4 down. Schumacher will sit. Carl and Bobby, 3 Olives, 2 guys.
All right, Boomer, check this out. Bobby has said we should watch the Evan Longoria swing and miss, and then watch the swing and hit for the home run. Bobby will report on that on Baseball Tonight. Rays beat the Rangers, or are leading the Rangers, I should say, by a score of 5-4.
It's nice we have him looking in there, but you have to let him know where the ball is. So you have to point to the ball. Now the ball's out in front of the plate.
All right, fellas, good to see Longoria playing. That changes just a little bit. That to you. Is there, and I know they have a leading hitter and everything, but no, it's Longoria, and then who are they? Well, they're the Rays. They just like the way they go about it.
I like their rotation a lot.
No, well, I didn't mean to eliminate them. Tyler Green, the pinch hitter in the pitcher spot, and Green is thrown out by Brandon Crawford. So 5 up, 5 down against. He is as good as Affeldt at the moment.
Well, and you've got to love, Boomer, having a reliever who can pitch to both left and right-handed hitters. It really doesn't matter with Affeldt on the mound. He's got the good breaking ball, but very few left-handed setup guys have enough fastball to be able to get right-handed hitters out.
Brian Terrio, 6th batter faced by Affeldt. This is only his 12th pitch.
Well, you know he's only going to face 2 more batters. And then all of a sudden, with Albert Pujols coming up, if he comes up here in the bottom of the 7th, Bruce Bochy will have a right-handed reliever ready to go. Casilla, Romo, all of those good options down there.
Well, again, and then if you're watching and just kind of don't know these teams that well, if it stays this sort of game, you'll have the excitement that is Brian Wilson in an inning or 2. Here he is. That beard, I think, has grown since the first inning. Affeldt misses now to Theriot, 3-0. Theriot 1 for 3. Taking all the way, it's a strike. Theriot acquired in the offseason from the Dodgers for Blake Hawksworth, the pitcher.
I'd have him taken again right here, Boomer. He's not really a power guy.
He wasn't. Tejada will take it. Throw over to Belt. And 6 up, 6 down against Affeldt. We played 7. 3-1 San Francisco. ESPN Major League Baseball brought to you by the all-new Focus from Ford. Drive one. And the makers of new Extra Strength Bayer Advanced Aspirin, the official pain reliever of Major League Baseball. Extra Strength pain reliever twice as fast as before. San Francisco Giants lead the Cardinals 3-1. They won yesterday 7-3. And a couple of changes now for Tony La Russa, double switch. Tyler Green stays in the game and will be the shortstop. And Ryan Franklin, the one-time closer who kind of imploded with an ERA of almost 8, has lost that job trying to just regain his sea legs. He's the pitcher.
And he has been throwing the ball better as of late. Ryan Franklin, even when he was the closer for the Cardinals, not a power guy. You see that right there, 91, 92 is about it. But I heard a story before the game today about Lance Berkman, after another blown save early in the year, coming into the clubhouse saying, boys, you know what, let it go. And Boomer, you've talked about it several times, with the exception of Pujols and Berkman and Holiday. This is a young team here. And here they are giving up leads late. Their closers having all kinds of problems. Berkman showing that leadership. He was the vocal guy. We got to let it go. We're going to get it fixed. We'll be just fine.
Eli Whiteside strikes out for the 3rd time tonight. So Franklin comes in and gets the Giants catcher looking.
You know, I really couldn't understand why in Whiteside's last at bat, a man on second, nobody out, that Bruce Bochy didn't have him sacrifice bunting, didn't maybe even pinch hit for him in that situation to try to add to the lead. But I think Bochy's just doing everything he can to try to get Whiteside going offensively. And Boomer, just from what I've seen the last 2 nights, I'm not sure it's going to happen.
Aaron Rowan is the pinch hitter for Affeldt, who was brilliant. 6 up, 6 down. Rowan, of course, remember the Giants last year, has a ring with the White Sox in 05. So he was on 2 teams that broke an 89-year skid and a 56-year skid. It's pretty good, huh?
He's a pretty good player. I laugh at him every time I see him standing up there, though. To me, he looks like the most uncomfortable hitter in the big leagues these days. It just doesn't. I just don't get that stance. But
you know, I was most impressed with him. Well, the Giants are really not good a couple of years ago, and he was the only answer for cleanup. And he's not a cleanup hitter.
He's not a leadoff hitter. But he's done that because Boch said that he knew that he could handle it. I'll tell you one thing Aaron Rowan is, and that's a competitor.
Oh, yeah.
And a great teammate.
Oh, God, yes.
He will hold everyone in that clubhouse accountable for playing hard every day because that's the way he's done it.
So Ryan Franklin looks into Rowan. 2 balls, 2 strikes, 1 out. 3-1 Giants here in the top of the 8th. And he gets 2 strikeouts here to start his tour of duty in the 8th. Franklin just 2 years ago was an all-star.
Well, take a look at the location of this changeup here. 2-2 pitch takes enough of it off. We've seen the 91-mile-an-hour fastball, and that's all of the change that he needed to create that swing out in front.
So now Andres Torres, 1 for 4 and a stolen base.
And Boomer, you want to spin it here. You want a curveball. You want a backdoor slider. There you go. We know the book on Torres. Now you can expand the zone. He swings one of the biggest bats in all of baseball. It's hard for him once he gets it started to hold it up. So now you try to throw something that looks like a strike that gets out of the zone. Another breaking ball or a high fastball. Looked like he went with the changeup there.
One pitch. Swung on and missed. 1-2. Franklin's come in and has a chance to strike out the side.
Well, this crowd has been looking for something to get excited about all night. And offensively, they haven't once again been able to give it to him. Maybe another strikeout will do it.
Almost.
I think the importance of the role for Ryan Franklin may be improving here.
Well, he was their closer, as we said, not long ago. They've had 5 different guys get a save this year, Sut, which is, I mean, it's still May for a few more hours. Good eye there, Torres holding off 2-2. The meat of the Cardinal order due up here in the 8th. And he does strike out the side. Good job by Franklin. Very good. So when we come back, you'll see Pujols, you'll see Berkman. You'll see the Cardinals try to make a rally from a 3-1 deficit. Welcome back to St. Louis, everybody. Now time for the one-a-day men's game-changing moment in Sut. It came by playing little ball, Andres Torres.
Well, you called it. You said he was going to go on the first pitch. I still don't know how you figured that out, but he did. And I think really the only reason that he was safe was the fact that Schumacher was not in position to take the throw. Sanchez thrown into that number 3 spot because he's the best offensive weapon they've got with Posiat now. He drives in what right now seems to be the game-winning run.
One-A-Day Men's encourages you to change your game when it comes to health and wellness. Visit changeyourgame.com to check out exclusive video from the pros. But he's changed a lot of games, by the way. He's pitched. There's the Beard, and that's Brian Wilson. Then there's the Beard Jr., and that's Sergio Romo. You see his ERA already appeared in 23, not 24 games. Romo, the primary setup man, and he's a good one.
He has only allowed 9 base runners all year long. This would be the closer for a lot of teams. The Cardinals being one of them.
John Jay, then Albert Pujols and Lance Berkman. 3-1 Giants here in the 8th. Chris Berman, Rick Sutcliffe, Buster Olney, and our baseball crew here on a rare Tuesday night start for a lot of us. Glad you could be with us. In on the grass a little bit is Tejada. Jay swings through that one. And quickly, Romo ahead 0-2. Affeld comes in for Vogelsong, gets a 1-2-3-6, a 1-2-3-7. Now the plan would be Romo, then Wilson. See if it works.
But the plan for the Cardinals is to get somebody on base and bring up the tying run this inning.
And they just did it. Inside the bag is Jay. He'll have his second base. Shiro's got a good arm, but that's not going to be a factor here. And they did more than that. They got a runner in scoring position for the big bats. Jay looks good to me. I don't see this team very much. He looks good to me.
I agree with you. You know, he's an above-average outfielder. He's got great speed, and the more and more you see of him swing the bat, the more you feel like he's ready to perform every day at the big league level. That is huge right there, getting into scoring position, bringing up the tying run in the person of Albert Pujols.
Was Belt wandering a little, or that just ball was right down the line?
Right down the line. It actually hugged the chalk the whole way.
Well, and now here is the much ballyhooed. What's wrong with Albert? Of course, his first 10 years, it was the answer, not much. 3-time MVP in the National League. He has a chance to exit May with a bang and tie this game up. He rams one to left center field. This will go by Ross all the way to the wall. One runner's home. Pujols in with a double. Back-to-back doubles for the Cardinals off tough Romo, and it's a one-run game.
Where'd all this noise come from? The Cardinal bats finally waking up. They have been quiet for the most part through the first 2 games of this series. Boy, Albert right on that pitch. Knowing now, finally, I think he's starting to figure it out, that the respect for Holiday and Berkman is going to give him more pitches to hit, and you're going to see him, just like that, Boomer, start being more aggressive early in the count.
Can I get out on a limb here and repeat what I said earlier in the game? He's fine. He'll be fine. Leave him alone. Bochy seeing Romo not fine. That's not been his M.O., but Romo gone. 2 doubles, ringing doubles. Javier Lopez, the lefty, to come in to pitch to the switch hitting Lance Berkman. I do believe we have ourselves a ball game.
We're back with Bobby Valentine, Carl Ravitch. The Houston story tonight is this kid, 20-year-old Jordan Lyles, Bobby, was outstanding as a debut.
208 #1 draft choice. Cash it in here. Good, very good breaking ball control and composure while on the mound, but threw one away, fielding a bunt.
Keep an eye on him. Zambrano snaps his bat, Boomer, as you got Pujols there on base.
Boomer, you know my favorite game of the year is that Futures game, and we got a chance to see Lyles last year perform there. Normally, if I'm excited about a guy, I'll put an exclamation point by his name. That guy got 3 of them in the Classic last summer.
So Romo gives up 2 doubles and gives up a run. Pujols at second. Tying run is Lance Berkman, and now the lefty, Javier Lopez, is on to face the leading batter and leading in many categories in the National League. Lopez, acquired from Pittsburgh at the trading deadline last year, the lefty, did a heck of a job. Psychology major from the University of Virginia. Hoping to use some of that psychology on Lance Berkman, who swings around and bats righty. In there for a strike.
Well, there's no question that this was the move Bruce Bochy needed to make. You take a look at the career numbers there. Most of the damage done against right-handed pitching. The problem, I think, for the Cardinals thus far this series is that the Giants have held Berkman down. 0 for 6.
A weak chopper. Tejada will hold the runner over to Belt, and a throw back just in case Pujols, who was sleeping on the base pass earlier tonight, was sleeping again.
Well, part of it's sleeping, and part of it's just being aggressive, as he has always been. Even though he's a big man, normally a first baseman, he loves to run the bases. He takes a lot of pride in it. He stole a base earlier in this series, and he realized right there, not a very good at bat by Berkman. Nobody out. You got to try to hit the ball to the opposite field to advance the runner. Pujols there just was hoping for a bad throw and thinking maybe I can pick my teammate up.
So Berkman doesn't deliver. Alan Craig is up 1 for 3. 1 out, 1 run home. The tying run at second and Big Albert. Craig, then Colby Rasmus against the lefty Javier Lopez. Brian Wilson warming in the bullpen. In there for a strike. There it is. You know, he's got everything. He got the full beard and very ZZ Top-like at the moment, except he's got the mohawk, but he's got the mullet. I mean, there's not much not happening there.
He's also got a right arm.
This one toward the gap in right center. It's going to be there. Pujols will around third. He'll score. And so 3 doubles here by the Cardinals in the 8th have tied this thing up. Alan Craig jumps on it. It was a no-doubter.
They talk about the 3-headed monster with Pujols, Berkman, and Holiday. Alan Craig slowly but surely becoming one of those bats that people here in St. Louis are going to get to know and love. versatile. They're playing him all over the field, a little bit of second base in the ball game yesterday. But the reason for all those positions is to get that bat in the lineup.
So all those runners in scoring position, the Giants didn't deliver. Now coming back to haunt them, as again the Cardinals now the go-ahead run in scoring position. Colby Rasmus looks at strike one from Javi Lopez. Craig was not even in the original starting lineup tonight for Tony La Russa, only put in right at game time when Matt Holliday was a scratch in the outfield. Each club 3 runs, 9 hits. Lopez now delivers. Ground ball to Sanchez at second. Craig will go over to third base. Sanchez throws him out. Rasmus is gone, and now with 2 outs, the go-ahead run 90 feet away, Yadier Molina will step to the plate. The righty against the lefty Lopez.
This is a lot of the reason, Boomer, why managers spend so much time trying to set their lineup up. They don't want to get to where they're too right-handed heavy or left-handed heavy in certain spots, because then an opposing manager can manage his bullpen as easy as he wants to. You see here now Bruce Bochy, even though he had to let Lopez pitch to the right-handed hitting Alan Craig because he wanted to keep him around for the left-handed hitter Rasmus. Well, you know what happened? He got burnt just like Cody Ross was able to burn Tony La Russa.
So now the intentional pass being issued to Molina, and Skip Schumacher will come up in a moment with runners at the corners. 2 runs home on 3 doubles for the Cardinals here in the 8th.
And Boomer, you might wonder, well, why, instead of pitching to Craig, why don't you just put him on? Well, you can't do that because that would have been the go-ahead run. This is a different situation here. The go-ahead run is just 90 feet away, so.
So the intentional pass finished. Skip Schumacher, just recently returned from the injury list, is 0 for 3 tonight.
Jose Oquendo coming down the line to talk to the Cardinal hitter. Now he's talking to Alan Craig at third base. Tony La Russa might be thinking about trying that double steal where, even though it's Molina at first base, you send him on first move and hope that you can sneak that run in on the backside of the pitcher.
Hit toward the hole. Sanchez off his knee. Safe. And the Cardinals have taken the lead. Sanchez had 2 targets to throw over at first. He hit the pitcher covering Lopez, but he wasn't on the bag.
I think Brandon Belt might have hurt his quad. He was grabbing his left side. I know that his hands killed him from when he got hit. Terrific play here on the part of Sanchez. Look at him break to that ball. Or Molina came awful close to that ball touching him. You're exactly right. Confusion there at first base. Lopez didn't get there. Belt didn't get out of the way. Look at the hustle, the reach and slide, and the excitement finally from that Cardinal dugout.
So Romo and Lopez, 2 pretty reliable cogs in the Giants machine. Neither machine running well tonight. Lopez is gone. The lead is gone. The Cardinals have scored 3 times to take a 4-3 lead. We'll be back.
All right, back with Bobby Valentine, Carl Ravitch. How about some defense? Web Gem's coming up on baseball tonight. Matt Laporta gets it done there. And then the bare hand by C.J. Wilson.
Ball was hit hard, but he's a great athlete, and he likes to do fantastic things on the field. Sometimes you wind up being sorry for doing fantastic.
Joaquin Benoit on, trying to keep the Tigers' lead safe. Red Sox lose. Phillies get hammered by the Nats. Meantime, Boomer, Curtis Granderson just hit his 17th. Yankees up on Oakland now 2-0.
Well, you see that we spent time, Carl and Bobby, analyzing all the teams, and then, well, who's going to be the leading home run hitter in the American League and the Yankees? Granderson? Really?
He hit 30 once before.
I know he did. It's not what they'll take it. Believe me, he's having a great season. Santiago Casilla now on to pitch to Tyler Green, who pinch hit and stayed in the game in the 7th inning. 3 runs home of the Cardinals. 2 on, they want more. Casilla just off the injury list. See if he can do what Romo and Lopez did not. You have trouble scoring runs. You got a 3-1 lead. You got Wilson in the pen. Just need to get to him. This one will sit poorly in the craw of San Francisco and be a big one for St. Louis if it stays this way.
Romo had given up 3 runs all year long, and the Cardinals were able to get him for 2 tonight.
Well, the closer of the moment.
Well, he's been
Fernando Salas,
but he's not lights out, and you've got the heart of the order coming up in the top of the 9th inning. So you figure that the Giants have their best opportunity to tie this ball game up and possibly take the lead, but Casilla has got to shut them down here.
Chopper. Oh, a tough play. Tejada, now he fumbles. All hands are safe. The Giants see in red, and the Cardinals fans in red on their feet again.
Tough play. Tough play. An in-between hop. A lot of topspin on that ball. Really a nice job on the part of Tejada keeping the ball from getting to the outfield, which would have led to another run. Having seen that play as many times as we had, Boomer, I would give it a base hit. I don't know what the call will be, but that was a real difficult play.
And now a youngster who's pinch hitting here for the pitcher Ryan Franklin, who by the way stands to win it, is Daniel Descalzo, who's come up with a lot of big hits this year. The young man from UC Davis, the alma mater of our producer Andy Reichwald. That's not why he's come up with big hits, but he has. He's up in a big spot here. Cardinals have scored 3 to take a 4-3 lead. They want more with the bases loaded. Ground ball to Sanchez. Over to Belt. That finally retires the Cards, but not until St. Louis. With 3 doubles to start the rally. Scored 3 times. And now we head to the 9th here at Busch Stadium. And the Cardinals, facing a 3-1 deficit, have a chance to win Game 2 of this 4-game series, 4-3. Welcome back, everybody. Chris Berman, Rick Sutcliffe, Buster Olney, and our Ruby Tuesday baseball crew here in St. Louis. Very good game. Cardinals 3 here in the 8th to take a 4-3 lead over the Giants. Albert Pujols goes from 3rd to 1st. Daniel Descalzo will stay in the game and play 3rd. And against Miguel Tejada, the batter, the new pitcher, the closer of the moment. Perfect thus far in his role as closer. Just turned 26 years old from Guatabampo, Mexico. Fernando Tost Salas. Tejada, Sanchez, and Nate Scherholtz for the Giants. Trying to scrape across a run.
You're right, Boomer. In his last 7 appearances, Salas has been perfect. 6 saves and a victory for the St. Louis Cardinals since he's taken over this role as their closer.
Don't forget, right after we're done here, it's halftime of the basketball game with Dallas head of Miami 44-43. Baseball tonight. With everything in the day in baseball, is a strike to Tejada with Carl Ravitch and Bobby Valentine and Eduardo Perez. We didn't mean to say 3 olives, 2 guys. We need 3 olives, we got 3 guys. It's been fun. Huh? It's always a great scene here in St. Louis. And the crowd a lot happier than they were the first 8 innings. Count is 1-2 to Miguel Tejada, one-time MVP of the American League. Slow grounder to short. Tyler Green. Pujols had to make the tag, and going down hard is Tejada. Pujols saying, didn't mean it, but I had to.
Looked like Miguel hit his head hard as he hit the ground down there, hustling down the line.
Well, the ball, the glove hit him in the nose.
It did, and then he came down. I thought when he went down is what hurt him more than anything else.
I guess it was a tag to the face. It was chest that went up to the face.
Nothing that Albert Pujols could have done other than that.
So Tejada will sit. And now Salas will deal with Freddie Sanchez. 1 for 4. Nice play in the field and an RBI. Ball 1. Salas delivers. Sanchez gets under it a little bit too much. Will it stay in? Yes, it will. And a play down the line by Alan Craig. So the Giants are down to their last out.
Sanchez is such a good hitter. He knows the situation. He knows they're down by 1, and he knows that he's swinging the bat better than anybody else. For Bruce Bochy's team, he tried to go deep right there, just missed it. Craig with a nice running catch, knowing where that wall is.
So now Nate Sherholtz, pinch runner, stayed in the game a couple innings ago. Won a game with his bat and his glove this year against Salas. Swings and misses. So the maligned part of the Cardinals can't win when Carpenter starts. Bullpen, yeah. Well, they're the ones that are going to end up coming through largest here, son, if it stays.
Once again, they can't score when Carpenter starts. That is now, in his 12 starts, they scored 28 runs, Boomer, when he's been in the ball game.
Ryan Vogelsong stood to win it. He pitched brilliantly again for the Giants, but their bullpen strength, Romo and Lopez, could not deliver. Sherholtz coming on in center field. Rasmus dives, can't get it. And Sherholtz will go into second base, so hold the phone. Tying run at second with 2 out.
Normally a play that he's going to make easily. But in that situation with 2 outs and nobody on, the tying run at home plate, you back up your outfielders. You try to cut off anything in the gap. And because of him being back 4 or 5 more steps, you can see there he's just about a half a step away from being able to make that play. That was a terrific effort. He did everything he possibly could, but the old rule of thumb about playing deep to cut off the gaps, all of a sudden it got the St. Louis Cardinals there. I mean, Salas knew that's a routine fly ball normally, but not with that defensive line.
Well, and he got a good jump on it, son. I mean, that was not the problem.
It's just where he started.
Emmanuel Burris is the pinch hitter for Belt, who may be favoring that wrist. Burris can beat. He's the other guy on the roster that can run, in addition to Torres, Ford on IR. Burris might be able to beat out an excuse me chopper to keep this alive. Sherholtz, the tying run at second, 2 out. Won't keep it alive with that swing. Salas gets him to chase one. Strike 1.
I'll tell you what, with Belt not being able to hit there, Boomer, the Giants might lose a lot more than just this ball game.
I know. Way outside to Burris. Washington, D.C., but grew up a Giant fan. His dad was one.
Brings a lot of versatility to the team. Infield, outfield. Typically in the National League, Boomer, where you make a lot of double switches.
Ooh, hit the corner. Good pitch, Salas. Giants out of the last strike. The Cardinals would have a big comeback win if it holds.
Painting that outside corner. He's not going to overpower you. Really well caught there by Yadier Molina. And now the Cardinals just one strike away from evening up this 4-game series against the world champs.
Game 3 will be on ESPN tomorrow night at 8 Eastern with Tim Lincecum against Westbrook. Tried again, but a little farther outside. 2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 outs. Scher holds the tying run at second. Really fun game here in St. Louis between the defending champs and the first place team in the NL Central, the Cardinals. Swung on and missed. Salas delivers. The Cardinals doubling delivers in the 8th, 3 runs. And so again, the Giants had in hand, but squandered a lot of runners in scoring position. Comes back to bite them. Cards win it 4-3.
Boomer, this crowd sat on their hands for 8 innings, and then all of a sudden the offense exploded for 3 runs. In the bottom of the 8th, the crowd was on their feet for that final strikeout. Salas remains perfect, and you wondered coming into this game, what was going to prevail? Was it going to be the offense of the Cardinals, the top batting average in the National League, or the pitching of the San Francisco Giants? Well, tonight it was the offense, the heart of the order, coming through in the bottom of the 8th.
Enjoyed seeing you, my man.
Elvis has left the building, I guess, huh?
I came up. I went like the Giants. 7 2/3 coming up from Richmond and couldn't finish it.
You called it, buddy. Great to have you.
Nice to be back with everybody. Great crew you have here, son. Sean McDonough, you got a good spot here. We'll see you next week on Monday Night Baseball. The Cardinals beat the Giants 4-3 with 3 in the 8th. Baseball tonight presented by 3 Olives Vodka. Coming up next with Carl and the gang. For Rick Sutcliffe and Buster Olney and all of us in St. Louis, I'm Chris Berman. Thanks for watching 4-3 St. Louis.